the regular monthly commission meeting. At this time, we have all commissioners present. We have Charles Rudd, City Manager, George Young, Young. We have Pam Taylor, our Code Enforcement, Christina Marie with CRA. We have Dale with Finance, and Captain Ussery with the Sheriff's Department, and Karen, our clerk. So with that, Commissioner Banks, I'm going to ask you if you'll provide our invocation. Please stand if you're able.
Father, dear God, once again, we come before you to give you thanks and to give you praise. And Father, especially a prayer for our citizens in our community and around our community, continues to bless us and lead this commission in the right way they should go. I ask this in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I just have a few announcements. We've got currently the Crescent City Women's Civic Association is doing their back to school supply drive. And this is where they're filling backpacks for the students in the community. And on August 5th, from 11 to 3, at the Women's Civic Association building over on 308, they will be hosting a giveaway. So right now, I believe until July 31st, you can get the number, we'll have it posted where you can reach out to them if you have any school supplies that you would like to provide. And the women's club is doing their bingo next Friday night, beginning at 5, and I believe bingo starts at 5:30. And for right now, that's about all that we have going on. I do don't believe he's here, but Ron West has been working in our lights on the median and trying to get our trees lit back up again. So if you drive through there at night, you will see that most of them, for the most part, are lit back up. So a big thanks to him. And with that, let's get started. I'm going to start with, we've got the approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for June 1st, both meetings, June 1st, 2023, and also June 8th, 2023.
Okay, I've got a motion.
I second with the necessary correction, if any.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, there are some. Okay, on the June 1st CRA budget workshop, I believe I was not listed as being present, if I could be listed as being present. And as well, in the last paragraph on the first page of the June 1st budget workshop, in the very first sentence, there's the word supporting. It doesn't belong there, it doesn't make any sense. Then there's just some
What line was that? What line was that?
corrections. Page 1, the last paragraph, first line, it says Commissioner DeVito asked about the supporting trunk or treat event. I don't know what supporting means. Just asked about the trunk or treat event. And then on the second page, where it would be in the third paragraph, the first line of the third paragraph, it says, asked about the master plan, actually asked about the master plan consultants. And then the if in that line should really be whether. Next to last sentence in the third paragraph, after the word school, should say property. And I think also in that same sentence, the words into the central CRA should be deleted. They're not, they don't make any sense. Just,
Well, I think what it was during that is that while a lot of that school is not in the central CRA, it's going to be included in the master plan, correct? Is that? That's what we discussed, and that was, okay, what was brought up.
Right, but if you take out those words that say would be included in the master plan, though, with the words into the central CRA, it sounds like
So.
the question.
Well, what I'm saying is it needs to be in there, but we can reword that.
Well, I asked a question, it wasn't what I asked. I mean, I didn't ask if it was gonna be put in the CRA, I said would it be included in the master plan?
So that's why you just take the
The words,
of central CRA and include it in the master plan.
so,
So strike into the central CRA,
yes,
okay, in the master plan, okay.
right, just those words. Then, so that would be it for the CRA.
Okay.
That workshop. I would request that the, land development code review workshop minutes for June 1st, be pended because there's some parts in there that don't seem to represent what we actually talked about. It's a technical and very difficult subject, and I just think those need some clarifications. So I would prefer that we pen those until a later time. And then in the regular meeting, on page 8, one correction, I checked with the city manager about this, under CRA, where the commission voted to extend the deadline for the grant program, it should be July 28th, not July 5th.
Okay.
So that's what I have, but I would like to pull the,
Okay, Commissioner Burton, it's your motion. Would you like to amend your motion to pull that? Also, I don't believe you had your motion included, with corrections. There was a second did, but I didn't hear you say the corrections, so.
oh, I thought you did.
She might have, I didn't hear her say that. I heard Commissioner Mack say that.
I guess my question to Commissioner DeVito is, does you really feel like that whole, all of the minutes on that particular subject of the, codes, is it really that far away that we would have to redo the whole thing, or is there anything very specific that we might be able to add at this moment, or take out at this moment, or anything to clarify what it is that's bothering you?
I think it's just a little too complex. If I could have figured out what needed to be fixed, I would have done it before the meeting. But it's a lengthy packet, there was a lot to do. And there's just parts of it that I don't think will be helpful to the public or that correctly represent what we talked about.
So what you're saying, you need to restate her motion?
Yes, sir. You have to.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, if it was just one little thing, then I can just ask for that. So I go ahead and make my motions,
Amend your motion.
to amend my motion to take out the June 1st, land development code review workshop minutes and, accept them with all corrections, accept the rest with all corrections.
I second with the necessary corrections.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This time I'm gonna open up for public comments. These are on topics that are not already listed on the agenda. They'll be heard at this time. Comments regarding public hearing topics will be heard during public hearings. Comments regarding business items will be heard during business items. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. If you wish to speak, I believe most of you, I hope, have already filled out a speaker's card. If you would, please come forward, state your name, state your address, if you will. If you don't want to, then that's okay. And please, have the utmost courtesy to the city commission, city employee, consultants, and the public, and refrain at all times from rude and derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. All right, at this time, I've got William Laurie, BJ, and you've got on here Middle School. Do you want to come forward now?
It's all on the agenda.
It's not.
BJ Lori, 505 Magnolia Avenue, City. First of all, I wanted to thank the city manager and for all members of the public that came to our workshop that we had about the middle school. Thank you, sorry. It was great to see everybody here and talking about it. And in relation to that, I would just like to say that I'm kind of concerned that what's the next steps and why we don't have it on the agenda again to talk about. I mean, we had a lot of input, we had a lot of people, you distributed the pages of comments that everybody submitted. I think everybody's very enthusiastic about it, and I think that we need to be discussing what our next steps are, because this is something that's gonna take multiple, months, years to work, and I don't know why we're not proceeding to the next step. I don't want the momentum to die, and I don't want us to lose our forward motion, so that's all.
Our next speaker is Linda White. It looks like she wants to speak on Resolution 2023-05. So I'm going to hold off on that, or would you like to come
I
forward?
can speak now.
You want to? Okay, you're welcome to if you want to speak now.
My name is Linda White. I live at 2392 South Highway 17. And my concern is that you're requesting public parking on right-of-way. And on the photograph that I saw on the resolution did not delineate the area that you're talking about having public parking. There's nothing, it's very vague. It's not showing the area that you want to have public parking, nor is there anything suggested in a time frame. And my concern is for the property owner that owns this property having access to their own property, or there being damage caused to their property by the public having access to park. So my concern is it's vague and it's not showing the area. I mean, I know you'll have to have right-of-way maps for that area. And I didn't see anything on the photograph, just a photograph. So my concern is for the public that own it, having access to their property. So it's vague, it's very vague. And there's no time frame on when public parking can be on the property. And that's what my concern is.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We've got Mary Ann Braddock. Would you like to come up now? Okay.
I just want to encourage the commission to continue to keep the middle school project on the agenda so that we have an open and continuous line of communication with the community about this project. We have a lot of momentum going. We need to keep that momentum going. Clearly, there's an imperative from the community for you all to pursue this thing. And by keeping it on the agenda, that's our assurance, I think, that you are pursuing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have George Miller. Mr. Miller, you have ordinance 0809. Do you want to come forward now, or do you want to wait until we go into public hearing on those? Do you have something else you want to speak for?
I'm going to speak to something that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
George Miller, 100 Lake Shore Drive, Crescent City. I would like the commission administration to respectfully consider possibly, I understand the packet the commissioners got was like 160 pages, and they got it a week before the meeting. And they're doing their due diligence to go through everything. And I would like to see maybe that extended to have that packet in their hands and publicly posted 10 days before the meeting. Because a lot of times we cannot contact the citizens, the commissioners, because they're busy going through it. I know that there's a lot of catch up. The administration's been working very hard and diligently to try to catch up a lot of important issues. But, and I would like to see the meetings for 3 hours. You know, the citizens, you got a good showing here. They have a life too. I think 6 to 9 would be reasonable. Get through the most important things. I know there's some emergencies that come up. And then schedule another time that meets people maybe the next day, Friday, you know, for 3 hours, if required. But I know the city has a lot of catching up to do. And my hat's off to the administration, but it's just a tremendous workload. And it doesn't give us citizens time for public discourse, you know, and we don't want to jam up the meeting when we can be communicating with the commissioners, you know, about questions we may have. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Gomez?
Good evening, Elizabeth Gomez, 19 Cedar Street. And I have 3 items I would like to talk about. The first one is the bathrooms. I met some of your public workers, Kevin and Karen, and they were cleaning the bathrooms, and it was over the weekend. I guess there were a couple of birthdays, and it was a mess. I introduced myself and I met Kevin, then I went to the bathrooms, and Karen was cleaning the bathrooms, and when I saw the mess, I wanted to cry. The writing on the wall, apparently there were homeless people living there in Dexter, I don't know. And then the toilet was full of crap, toilet paper, paper towels, and she said it's not a one thing that it happens all the time. And she said here in Liens, they even set fires to the bathrooms. I just wanted to know if there's something that can be done about those bathrooms, maybe being closed at night. The second thing is, I met a wonderful woman, she's from Crescent City, and she's giving yoga classes for $1 at Pomona Community Center. And I wonder how come we don't have a community center, because when I look around, all the women were from this town. And I'm like, what's going on? We are a city, and this is a town and it has a community center. And my last thing is gonna be for Captain. I had a fit on the 4th of July when I went walking at 8:30 in the morning, and Dexter Park already had like 7 cars, a grill as big as Doc's Bailey for barbecuing, and the music was loud. Liz Carter's parents moved right across from there. She told me her mother just got out of the hospital, her dad had a bad leg, and these people had this loud, profane music already going on. And I said, Jesus Christ, it's my neighbors. I cannot imagine what's gonna happen by 9:30 tonight. And sure enough, 9:30 came, 10:30 came, and one police officer had to wait for backup to disperse the crowd. Are we one community that we have to have 2 separate events? Where are they right here? None of them are right here, and it makes me cry. Only you, Commissioner Banks, you're the only one here representing that crowd. And it's not about color, it's about respect. Because these young adults are gonna be these people's neighbors. They're gonna grow up to do what the adults are doing right now, disrespect. And I love you, Harry Max, I love you, thank you.
Love you too.
Thank you. Okay, Dan Dodge.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Dan Dodge, and I live at 218 South Main Street. And I'm up here talking about the Miller School, and I was very surprised that it wasn't on the agenda. If you remember, or the previous meeting a month ago, how excited everyone was with the possibilities and the opportunity today with our property, with the school board not building on it. And during that meeting, you could see that everyone was coming together with a common cause. The last event we had with the flip charts just didn't do it. and I was surprised that there wasn't a monitor. Collecting and exchanges and communication with the residents. And, but most importantly, it's an item that needs to be on the agenda for future meetings because it's vitally important to all of us. And we want to give you our input. So please consider that. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have as far as comment cards here at this time. So, yes, if there's anybody else that has come in late that was unable to fill out a comment card, if you want to go ahead and come forward. This is going to be on anything that is currently not on the agenda. If it's something on the agenda and you want to speak on that, then we'll have time for that. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Laureen Faulkner, and I have two things I want to discuss. One is the parking. My business, as a lot of you know, is on Central Avenue, and we do have a limited parking area on Central Avenue. I am very fortunate because catty corner to my restaurant is the old school parking lot, so we can still use that, and I am very grateful that we can do that. But if parking is taken away, it would be a problem for all businesses, not only mine, but 3 Bananas and other businesses, including a new yoga studio. We only have parking on the street, so it makes it very difficult. So I don't want parking to be taken away at all. So the other thing is the Purple Plum Playhouse is our theater group in Crescent City, as all of you know. And I love the auditorium. The auditorium has given us a great venue, and I'd hate to see the auditorium either torn down or taken away from us. It's a great place to have a gathering. It can hold a lot of people, and it is a wonderful place to have a play. It's a real stage, real lighting, real sound, a real theater. So I'd hate for that to go away. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out public comment at this time. And Captain Usher. Do our sheriff report.
Good evening, everyone. Well, we had another good month. Don't want to brag too much, but don't have much to go over today. A couple things here. If you start looking through the package you have there, the first thing we had was over on East Grand Rondo. A pressure washer was stolen from someone's shed, and that was the only the crimes that I report on: theft, robbery, burglary, murder, things like that. That's the only thing we had. So that's good to know. No vehicle thefts. I mean, Pomona Park's keeping me pretty busy right now with vehicle theft, so I'll just keep it away from here, hopefully. So I think we've remedied that problem as well. You have any questions about those so far?
Any questions? You said it's closed, so.
Yes. So, yeah, there was nothing to go on that. The gentleman was from out of town. He'd been doing some cleaning and he came back and really could give us a really good time on when the pressure washer went missing. So there was really nothing to go on. The guy's done a great neighborhood canvas, but just no serial numbers on the unit and really had nothing to go on. The next there is our traffic crashes. I hope that is a direct reflection of our heavy traffic enforcement that we've been doing in Crescent City. We only had one traffic crash that was there at Summit Park Street. It was actually a car was making a left-hand turn into the parking lot with Wendy's. Is that all my time? Making a turn into Wendy's and collided with that first car. Wasn't paying attention. So that was it. We had a couple parking lot crashes, but nothing significant that we had full reports on. Moving next, you see the calls for service were extremely high there this month. That was a reflection of a lot of the traffic stops that took place. As you see, there was 141 traffic stops out of 300 calls for service. 19 of those were checking out with suspicious persons, suspicious vehicles, and 17 reports, 9 of those being proactive related. So those related to the traffic stops. That was either narcotics being seized from vehicles or driver's license charges. So which only left you with, I believe, with the report of the theft, there was really only 8 reports in Crescent City over the month of June, which is very good. Next page there is kind of a 6-month comparison. As you can see, we had 100% reduction in crime. Last month we had 2 reported crimes. This month we have 1. Again, on the reported crimes that we report to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which when people go on that website, they see what the crime rate looks like in Crescent City, and that's what we focus on mainly. Any questions thus far?
Commissioners, any questions?
I will address the commission with the Bay Lane incident with the fireworks on 4th of July. I've instructed our guys when we have the big holiday events that we've had a lot of cooperation with everybody on 849, or I'm sorry, they're calling 849 by the name Bay Lane, but that's kind of where the general location is. We have a very good relationship with those individuals over there, and I instructed my deputies when we start receiving calls for service, shut it down. The first call for service came in at 10:51 p.m. That's when our deputies responded over there and everybody dispersed. So that's why it was so late in the afternoon, because that was the first call that we had received at the sheriff's office. According
That
to
was
our,
on Bay, that was at Bay,
Yes,
not at
yes.
Dexter though.
no, we received nothing at Dexter.
You just
Whoa.
you just see
Yeah,
nothing.
that's not true.
I'm just looking at my CAD system and I don't see anything for Dexter.
Mayor, if I could,
Yeah.
there were calls for Dexter. Someone texted me that they made a call, I made a call. I received a follow-up call from the sergeant on duty who explained the whole thing. And the part was, there was a party, they had cones in the road, which was actually quite awful. There were 5,200 people there. One car was sent, but because of the size of the group, they had to wait until quite a bit later. I know Commissioner Bailey lives right near there. They had to wait until later, and people across the lake ultimately, and the sergeant told me they had 3 cars there, and they dispersed everybody.
Okay.
So I don't know about your CAD system, but.
Yeah, like I said, I was trying to do it as quick as I could right there, so I could have missed something there, but, and maybe I just didn't see the way it was, dispatched when it was dispatched, but.
Well, we're filling you in.
Okay,
We got it covered.
And he did, and he did respond. They were great as far as, as soon as they could get back up, and they stayed around to make sure that nobody circled back and kept the park quiet from then on, and they actually tried to get them to clean up. Some did clean up, some did not.
Perfect.
Police Commissioner Banks, you were out there too, weren't you?
Yeah. Maybe we need to, I don't know what we need to do. We need to do something though, because it was horrible. It was horrible, it really was. Cars parked all on the grass, cutting U-turns, and just terrible.
As we get closer to 4th of July, and I guess we've got New Year's Eve coming up, we probably need to talk about if there's anything we can do to try to either we close the park down at dusk, any suggestions that you have that we could curtail that activity in the park.
Okay. Perfect.
Fireworks are legal on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and the 4th of July, so they let them off. They're just not supposed to do them in our parks.
Right.
Not half the night.
Unfortunately, I think they can do it until midnight.
Yeah,
They can tell, yeah.
Midnight seems late when you have to get up in the morning to go to work. So.
As we get into that.
I don't know what we need to do, but we need to brainstorm a solution.
Yes.
Try to come up with a solution, what we can do about that, because it's horrible. I'm happy, I stay in the woods. My home is one of the last ones in the city limit, out of city limit, so, but I could hear all that going off, and I thought sure we had all the activities, that Saturday before, down the Three Bananas. But that didn't take place. I don't know, that can get out for one reason. I don't know whether y'all monitor the social network, so you can tell them things like that is gonna occur.
We do, it's the block parties, normally they go on in the city of Blacko, that's where we're having all the shootings and everything right now, so That's normally where all those take place, and, we monitor that. Our crime prevention officer monitors those very heavily.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
I do have a comment and a question. But my question is, for the vehicle thefts that you had in that other town, does it make a difference whether it's locked or unlocked, or is it just general vehicle thefts?
So these vehicle thefts were both unlocked. The two of them were. One window was busted out, was left in the Handyway parking lot, and the other two were basically one man was mowing the backside of his property, left his keys up there with his trailer hooked to his car, and somebody coming by and seen an opportunity and took the car. And the other one, the gentleman ran inside and let his car cool off inside of his house while he was just ran in there to grab a couple things and came back out and his vehicle was gone. But we made arrests on both of those cases, on two of those cases.
Okay, and then just my observation is, I'm glad to see you made a lot of traffic stops. Because I live very near Central Avenue, I travel it, and actually for any business owners who are here, it's been very disturbing. I've reported a couple incidences of very reckless driving, like someone driving up from Lake Crescent past me on the yellow line. I mean, there's no reason to pass someone,
Where's that at?
you know, coming up from Free Bananas
Okay.
toward the stoplight. There was a car with front end damage. It was just very reckless. They were speeding up Central Avenue. And, you know, people are, they're going to a business on one side of the street, they're parking on the other side of the street, there's kids there. That's not good. And then also on the west side of Central Avenue, similar, just very reckless driving.
Okay.
But y'all are, you know, you're trying to make the stops and everything, so please, thank you. And keep that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Normally, we were averaging between 30 and 60 traffic stops, so we made a drastic increase.
Any other questions of the council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
As always, thank you. Okay, with that, we're gonna move on to, our business items. Charles, I'm gonna let you, start off. We do have on this first issue, Commissioners, the parking issue. You've got a resolution 2023-05, that is further down the agenda. If you would, your pleasure, we can move that up to the discussion.
I'll go ahead and,
Make a
make a motion to move this, as part of this discussion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. And that's just to move the resolution up.
Just to move the resolution up, yes. So we only talk about it once. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor. This item, to describe in cover memo, is a debate that's been going on for some time, and several of you were contacted months ago, as was I, about this issue. This is, if you look on the screen, in Central Lake. This is from the property appraiser's site. These green lines are approximate property lines. This site's not 100% accurate. But it gives you an idea that this is not a rectangular, there's a little dog leg here. This is the property line. So this is the right of way. You can see there's currently parking on this side of the right of way, on the east side, and parking on the west side. And we have a fire hydrant. And the property owner located here, 105, contacted us, and several of you complaining cars were going beyond this into private property or hanging over into property, into some of the landscaping that's here, some lilies you'll see, and wanted to stop. So we met with them and the businesses that primarily use that public parking, to come up with the resolution. We come up with the idea of just parallel parking, so people wouldn't be going over the line, as well as golf carts, compact cars. We signed it, we moved the barriers. I'll show you, this is an image of the site. When I show you, it's hard to see, there's a pink flag right here. This is the property line. This is our fire hydrant here. So it cuts actually through this. There's a flag back here, and then it goes straight back, kind of like this. Is the property line, with private property on the right and the public right of way on the left. So this is another, if I stepped over a few feet, these yellow lines represent our gas main. It goes through here. You can't see it so far away. There's a pink property marker right about here. The gas line basically parallels the property line all the way back to the bushes. This is where the parking, the wooden ties were in the right of way. We moved them, made sure they were in the right of way, so people did front end in there, it wouldn't hang over the property line, which is back here. This is a private, no trespassing sign that's been put in the right of way. So this is from the other side looking back. Again, the gas line here, this yellow flag, and this pink flag here is the actual property marker before it angles. So you can see that the bumpers were well in the right of way. This is where they killed the grass when they were laying. So what happened was, property owner removed our signs, removed the barriers, planted landscaping in the right of way. You can't see it here. There's a blue flag over here. We have a water main over here as well. So the proposal, one of my recommendations to you is that, and during this whole process, the property owner often talked about putting up a fence. So my recommendation to you is that we put up a fence. We put up a rail fence that mirrors the property line. It gives us an opportunity to cordon off our fire hydrant. It can't be within 15 feet of the fire hydrant. And so we designate this right away as it is, and this is all general commercial, is public parking, and it would keep people from going over. That fence would be a rail fence, could have ruling bind on it, so forth, be an attractive feature to resolve this dispute and to still allow for, still maintain a business-friendly environment, allow for public parking in the right of way, as this is general commercial zoning district.
I thought it was residential.
No, this is all GC1. And the resolution is to sort of reassert that the commission designates right of way, including this right of way, typically as public parking.
You're looking to us for.
Well, today there's folks from both sides of this issue to state their case. If you want to hear that. Ultimately, I'm looking for approval of the resolution to designate this, and then I would, approval to put up the fence not to exceed. I don't know what the fence would cost, maybe not to exceed $5,000 to install that fence. So I don't have to wait another month to bring that back to you.
Mayor, I have some questions. We've had a presentation, can I just ask questions before we consider a motion? Okay, so my first question is my understanding, our code does not allow parking on the right of way and parking that will mess up landscaping. And where there's a curb. So that would be that's vehicle parking right there. So how we're allowed to change that ordinance by resolution?
Well, the code does not prohibit parking in the right of way. You can't block a lane, you can't double park.
Actually, I've looked at it very carefully. It does seem to prohibit driving over a curb and parking in the right of way, and it particularly speaks to parking that destroys landscaping and even the grass.
Well, it does say no parking driving over a raised curb. This curb is not really a raised curb, and also landscaping wasn't there. People have been parking there for over a decade, not disturbing landscape.
Okay, but notwithstanding that, or I do not necessarily agree, I've looked at it many times. But if you weren't allowed to park on the right of way in a spot like this, would we be able to just designate a parking area by resolution that's on the right of way?
Are you looking for me to answer that?
I'm looking right at you.
As you were aware, and I believe from Commissioner Bailey's motions was that the two of you have read the ordinance that discusses parking basically on city right of ways. It is not exactly, well, I guess the best way to state it is somewhat vague. If you'll notice, it tracks Florida statutes when it comes to distances from fire hydrants, walkways, those type things. And the first part of the ordinance seems to indicate parking as a parking on the curb. Then it gets into more details, like you say, about you can't drive over the raised
edges, and you can't park on shrubbery, you can't, those type of things. So the first problem is it probably needs to be updated and more specified. To answer your question, if the commission believes that that the ordinance applies to parking on right-of-ways, all the issues, not just, you're not parking on shrubbery, then yes, if you were to modify that, you have to modify your ordinance. But that would include parking on right-of-ways throughout the city limits. My understanding here is though, if you're to interpret it, that it does not prevent parking on right-of-ways if you don't have shrubbery and it's not a raised edge. You could by resolution designate it as a public parking area, as long as you don't violate the other provisions of the ordinance. 15 feet within whatever the designated feet are from those restricted areas such as fire hydrant, those type of things. And then of course, you've got the other issue right now is you have someone occupying your right of way.
Yeah.
You have a trespass in your right of way.
What is the trespass on the right of way?
You see the previous pictures where they
Yeah.
planted shrubbery in the city right of way?
Well, I have a question about that, because if you walk around town on South Prospect Street, there's many fine residents who have quite a bit of landscaping in the right of way.
I'm not aggressive to those though. You could have a trespass there as well. So what you had was city property that was removed and shrubbery intentionally placed in a place to prevent parking.
All right, so you're saying if the ordinance, doesn't apply, if the parking ordinance doesn't apply to this particular area, which is a little vague, then we could designate it by resolution. We could do it that way.
Yes, Commissioner.
I have one question now. Isn't a precedent set, since this has been a parking area for, I don't know how many years? Ever since I've lived here, people are allowed to park there. And that's about 4 years. Now, I believe that people have parked there a lot longer than I've lived here. Doesn't that set some type of precedent to also kind of leave it that way?
I believe, could you consider a precedent where certainly the commission would consider what it's been used for and how it benefits the local populace? Yes. Is it something like adverse possession, which means that the public has the right to park there?
I understand that too, but I just wanted to kind of bring out that it has been a parking area for a long time.
I think what you once you come in contact with, which is very common, especially when you talk about ordinances, is the uniform application throughout the city. When you can go and say, hey, people are parking here all over on public right of ways, and no one, it's not an issue. As you mentioned, you think people have stuff planted in the right of ways, and there's not an issue.
And the city plants things in the right of way.
Well, the city can't, it's their property. But this is a particular area, and so the commission has to decide, it's simply this. If you believe the ordinance prohibits parking there based on the language of the ordinance, then yes, you would have to amend the ordinance.
And then I have one more question, and I think I've reached it. So for golf carts that aren't street legal, golf carts that aren't vehicles, do they come under the same parking requirement as street legal vehicles? Cars, trucks, all that kind of thing?
I mean, where do they legally park?
Yes.
Okay.
Or do we even know?
Well, for part of it, I mean, just because you have the vehicle on street legal doesn't mean it can't be parked in public parking. There are other avenues by which they can reach that location. I'm not aware of any ordinance, I mean, unless it's a local ordinance or the particular place that says you can't park a golf cart in my parking lot, that you can't park it there. Now, can that same golf cart get out on the city if it's not street legal, it hasn't been properly registered, tagged, et cetera? Can it get out on a city street and drive? Only illegal. But the common use around here is to circumvent the street, use the right of way or other private avenues. And then unless you have an ordinance here that prevents parking a certain type of vehicle in public parking, then no, they can park there.
Okay, all right, that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Charles, if you were to put the fence there, you were to put the rail fence there, could you, I guess you could also put gravel or something along in that grassy area, or in that area?
We
You're
could,
gonna have to dig in there anyway, correct? You're gonna be digging in there, is that correct?
for the posts, just for the posts.
Oh, I thought we were gonna have to for the fire hydrant.
The fire hydrant will get dug up when we repair it, but, it just, the fence would just stay for the posts.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, before we open up for discussion, further, do we want to, is there a motion at this time, or do we want to wait till after we have public comment? Oh, I think we'll wait till after we have public comment. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for public comment at this time. Anybody that would like to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name.
Well, actually, Mayor, before we have public comment, I have one question.
Sure.
I feel like we've been turned into a parking courtroom here. We've received a lot of communications about this. We have a folder with citations to the ordinances. Is there any way for the city staff to review these materials and have the people who occupy this area come together and talk about a solution instead of us basically having to have a parking trial here?
Hold on just a second. I'm gonna have,
Well, we've done that. We met, we tried to come up with a, compromise, which, no one's happy to have a good compromise. And then lately they changed again, well, the compromise was removed and basically the right of way was claimed. So I think we've been through that. We've read all the material and rather than us to take action and then it comes to you as a under public comment and you're asking me, why didn't you come to us sooner? Bringing it to you up front to be that last voice, set the policy, this area. What I'm asking this area is public parking. We designate it such that we can resolve this issue.
This is pretty simple. This strip of land is city land. It's not Ms. Tillman's land and it's not Free Bananas land. It is city property, pretty much. That's it. And it's our decision to figure out what we want to do with it. It doesn't go too much further than that. But it belongs to us. So I don't think there's much discussion except to decide which one to do it.
Well, I don't think it's that simple at all. As far as I'm concerned, you can't park on a curb anywhere. You can say how big or how small the curb is. You can't park next to the fire hydrant anywhere else in the city. It's a new property owner. It doesn't make any difference if they've been parking there 20 years. They pay good money for the properties, their property, up to the point it's not. There may be a discrepancy.
okay, I'm gonna ask everybody.
There may be a
You'll have a
discrepancy
chance
on
to speak.
where the property lines are. But the other problem now is, and I've seen some of this, people park next to it and then step in the yard. Who's liable for those people that are stepping in the yard just because they park there?
That's why a fence is
Well,
put up.
that's why a fence would prevent anybody from stepping in there.
I think the biggest thing we have to do, first of all, is find out exactly where the property lines are and make sure everybody's happy with that before we do anything else.
We've already done a survey.
We asked for a survey. They've
We've
got
already
a
had a survey.
surveyor went out there. Okay, this time I'm gonna
You know a
go
lot
ahead.
more about this than I do.
Well, I guess you haven't been paying
It's been
attention.
going on for
Really?
over a year. Okay,
I've been in
commissioners,
open forum all this time.
commissioners.
Go ahead and bang that, because I'm gonna say this anyway. I've been in open forum all this time. I don't know a tenth of what's going on, what you know, and I'm just damn well informed on what's happening.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for public comment, please. Anybody that would like to speak on this issue, please come forward, state your name if you would. Karen, clerk.
Hi, my name is Rachel McKenzie and I live at 25 South Lake Street. And this is the first survey that the city had done. This shows where the ties were on the property line. This is before they were moved by being run over by cars. It's not what the survey that we had done last week shows. So it's totally different. So I do think we need an independent survey. Okay, as you can see by looking at this picture, I'll bring it over to you. It's not enough space to park cars and have the cars back out without doing a 5-point turn.
Thank you.
There's just not enough room. And they do back into Miss Tillman's yard. They back over the railroad ties. They throw their trash in her yard. It's constant. And there is a city ordinance under trees and bushes that allows you to plant within 2 feet of the curb. That's what Miss Tillman did. You know, 3 Bananas parking lot is very disorganized. If they put lines in it, they would get at least 6 more cars on a busy night. But if I go to Walmart, I can park in the front row space. I have to park way back and walk. I don't think that should be such a big problem. I don't know. So I also want to point out that the crosswalk that y'all are talking about abruptly ends in the handicap parking space. And there's a stop sign at that handicap space. And the handicap space is the same size as all the other spaces. And Florida DOT said handicap spaces have to be a minimum of 144 inches. And the ADA requires an additional 60-inch access aisle with hash marks beside the handicap space. And you've also got a fire hydrant. You can't park within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, 20 feet of a crosswalk, and 30 feet of a stop sign. Is 3 Bananas being fined for all these violations? If not, I'd like to know why not. I mean, when I look, it's just, this is just wrong. I understand that at some point it is city property, but it affects Miss Tillman all the way around. And other people are allowed to plant plants within 2 feet of the curb. I don't see why she's different. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers on this?
Craig Oates, 601 Lemon Avenue. I really don't have that much of a dog in this fight, but as everybody else that's sitting here listening, how we have city employees staking claim to property, appointed and elected, and money. It's my money, it's my property. It's not y'all's anything, it's ours. Good night.
Thank you, that's my point exactly, it's city property.
Okay, we have any other speakers?
Canatio, 936 Lake Argenta. So I have a few comments, and like Mr. Oak said, I have no dog in this game, but just sitting here, listening to everything that's going on, it's quite clear the bias in some members of the commission. You can't use a picture like that from the property appraiser's website. The first thing, if you go and look at their website, is they'll tell you could not use a picture like that. It's highly inaccurate, misrepresents the true right-of-way. I mean, it looks like there's a huge chunk of right-of-way, first of all. So if you've done a survey, the information you should be providing is the actual survey information, not something from the property appraiser's website. You also can't do what you're trying to do by resolution. It's very clear. I mean, you've got a city attorney there that's supposed to be guiding you. Florida statute 166.01 makes it very clear, right? I can read it to you. Ordinance means an official legislative action of a governing body, which action is a regulation of a general and permanent nature and enforceable as a local law. It's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to change the local right-of-ways, including parking. So you're constituting a local law. You're actually not using resolution in the sense that it's intended to. So this is not an administrative business of a governing body that's allowed by resolution. So this is completely in violation, and I think it's important to bring that up. And then the third thing that I want to mention is, to me, it looks like there's a clear bias because you've got one side of the street where you're trying to implement parking against all of these violations, all of these statutes and even your own city ordinances. But then on the other side of the street where the Three Bananas is, you've got a crosswalk that ends into a handicap parking spot. Do you know how much trouble the city could get into if ADA was brought into that? You've got a curb in which there's parking over that curb. It's quite clear, it's even marked in yellow. And then the other issue that you've got on the Three Banana side that nobody's pointed out is, why is Three Bananas continued to allow to park in violation of all the city ordinances? Why is the law not being applied equally? It seems like the law is only being applied equally in certain cases. And I think we've got enough suspicion as to why this is happening to Ms. Tillman's property, given everything else that's happening in the political climate in Crescent City. So there's a lot going on here, and it's highly inappropriate. And I think you should all seriously reconsider your actions, because there's legal ramifications for what you're about to do. Thank you.
Living in Crescent City all of my life, you know, when you go all the way stop to Lake Street down there, it's off the square. One of the fellow commissioners, lady commissioner that used to be on this board long back, her name was Miss Knox. She added a room on her house and didn't get the land conveyed, and part of her house was on her neighbor's land. And this goes back sometime. So Crescent City is very, very off the square. I can tell you that right now. Very off the square. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what you want to name it, but it's off the square.
Amen.
And that is for real. You go all the way to Lake. I think, and I know for part or sure that they used to just, the fella that used to do a lot of the vein in Crescent City used to just walk it off. That is a fact, and it's a true fact. Now, I don't know how it is now on the other side of town, but on this side of town, we're way off the square.
It doesn't make it right.
Do we have any other speakers on this issue? Yes, sir.
I don't know what the maximum capacity of Three Bananas is, for the fire marshal, but there's adequate parking north of, behind the city dock and on the south side of Three Bananas, and there's plenty of parking up and down Central Avenue. And it's only 2 blocks walking to the middle of town where the farmer's market is. There's all kinds of parking there. So, you know, there's a lot of people have city right of way that they maintain as part of their yard, and they're required to do it. Plant flowers, keep it mowed, keep the leaves raked and everything else. And, you know, I don't understand, you know, why, Three Bananas needs more parking and people don't want to walk. You know, there's plenty of parking around Three Bananas. You know, but, the fact that they were parking on, across, you know, even if you put a fence up and everything else, they're gonna be backing up into running traffic and stuff. That's not safe. That's not safe. And why would you penalize or, someone trying to make their yard pretty? But, you know, there's city right of way, 35 foot, in some cases, 60 feet either side of the center line of the road. You know, and, that's all over town. So if you pass this, or, I mean, is it gonna, I don't understand. I really don't. I think it's a bunch of foolishness.
Thank you very much. This is something, I think, regardless of where we go with this, we've got an issue, I mean, we're gonna have an issue, because I know Ms. Tillman wanted a fence there. There's always gonna be an issue, somebody's still gonna pull in there, people that come to town that have parked there for years. They're probably going to continue to park there, even if it's parallel parking, so, I don't know if we should, but at this time, I need to entertain a motion if there's no motion.
Mayor, I have a motion. I would like to move that, we direct the city manager to put up an attractive fence to demarcate the right of way from the Tillman property. But at this time, we do not pass a resolution specifically designating that as public parking so that we can consider this further. And that's my motion. I'm very uncomfortable for the reason that Skip Miller brought up, just for the appearance of the town and the precedent that it sets. Just taking right of way, we're actually, the scheme, if you look at our ordinance, it is trying to keep the town attractive. And the right of way is that green space that makes the town attractive. You know, where else are we going to have a resolution to allow parking that used to be green space in front of people's businesses and homes? And one thing I want to point out is, I think this needs further study, but this is much like South Prospect Street where the middle school property is. So if you notice in front of Three Bananas, their parking really is extending into the right of way on that side. So on the Three Bananas side, and I know they need parking, on the Three Bananas side, there's no green space. Their parking lot goes right up to the street. But then on the other side, to make it look nice, there's that green strip. And it's kind of that way on South Prospect Street, where there's no right of way. All that in front of the middle school property from Central right back to Cypress, I think, is just parking. It's all paved. And there's not really enough space. The cars have always either gone over the sidewalk or stuck out to the street. But on the other side, opposite the school, in front of the Gommel's chiropractor business and where Dr. Ford's house used to be, there's a nice green strip of right of way, so it looks kind of nice. And if you start taking that out, by passing resolutions, I don't know how nice it's gonna look. So to me, the first step is to put up the fence, and the second step is to look at what these ordinances really say, because Mr. Young was not sure. So that's my motion, to put up the fence, and to make certain that we know what the ordinance does and we look at solutions.
So the motion is to put up a fence?
Yes.
I'm gonna take it one step further. I think you said decorative fence? Is that
Well,
what you
it's
said?
attractive.
Well, I would like to put up a privacy fence,
Well,
a fence.
let her finish her motion because
Well, we're talking motions now, and
I
I'm
know,
just trying to
because
do
I
one.
have to, wait a second.
These are need the second.
Yeah, block their water view.
Okay.
So, I made a motion to put up a fence to end the resolution.
That's all of it?
If it gets a,
Amendment, you can make an amendment to hers.
if it gets a second, it gets a second. If it doesn't, then somebody else can make a motion.
Your party would wait.
I understand. Would you like to come up and speak?
Aren't we supposed to see whether we get a second?
I'm gonna let her come forward first, and then I'll speak. Do we have, a second at this time?
Yeah, I'll second it. I'll second it. I agree, we should put a fence there.
I'm sorry, since Ms. Tillen put the crepe myrtles along her property line, there has not been parking there.
But that's not her property.
But I do want to say this,
Right.
okay, I do want to say this, that it's my understanding, so those are crepe myrtles. That for a small tree, there should be 20 feet between each planting according to ordinance 18.5.9. Ordinances, correct?
I don't know how much is
It
between.
should be 20 feet between each one.
I have pictures, we drove around town, we took pictures of what people had done to see what we can do.
That's the ordinance.
The mayor, if we put up a fence and then look at our ordinance, see what changes we need to make, we can bring that change back to the form of ordinance.
So I agree with
That's the issue.
I agree with Commissioner. I think that to be a fence, to be okay. Put a fence up. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion?
Well, I do. I think before we did that, it's probably best to get both parties together and figure out if that's what you want as a fence. You know, this city is in order to help its constituents rather than wage war over property. I'd much rather see an amicable resolution where both parties are happy than to try to code somebody into parking in a curb where there's no other parking in a curb in the whole city and single her out. Just like you said before, is this where it's gonna start? Who knows, the next person who's got a restaurant next door says, I wanna park in their property too, or close to their property, or have that issue. Nobody wants anybody parking in their property. I live on Grand Rock, I don't like that
Do we
either.
have a motion? Call the question?
Oh, shit.
Oh, Mayor, I do have one question about this.
Yeah, call the question?
Okay, well,
I'm gonna allow her to.
right, because I think we need some clarification. I said an attractive fence, and Commissioner Burton said a privacy fence.
But I agree, I probably jumped the gun there, and I shouldn't.
And she
I-
seconded your motion
And I
as
seconded your motion.
So
She seconded your motion as stated. I'm gonna speak to, Commissioner Bailey, and I will say this, that, I worked extensively with Ms. Tillman, on this, and the mayor, and the city manager, and hoping to meet a compromise, and thought we had met a compromise, and that was a compromise that Three Bananas offered. At that time, knowing that they were going to give up parking, and it was just surprising when Ms. Tillman did not reach out to us at any time to talk to us about the fact that possibly the compromise was not working. And so that was I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the parties had at one point in time. We were kind of mediators.
Ms. Tillman also, I think at one point, she was gonna put up a fence herself and
Yeah.
just fill out a permit application for that.
And she gave us an estimate. She gave us
So,
an
once again, I wasn't privy to any of that information, which we probably should be in to circumvent the whole issue.
And that happened.
And I'm
A year
not
ago.
privy to that, but I do think that, maybe a third party intervention, be able to have the third party do the mediation would be better than us versus them scenario. Just my thing.
Ms. Tillman would like you to know that she was all for the compromise until the trucks started backing up and hitting the ties, and they would actually go over the ties, and then they'd have to pull the ties out because they couldn't get their trucks out of her yard. And they were making divots in her yard, and it just didn't stop. It just made it worse. And then so the police were walking by, and she asked them, look at these trucks and look what they're doing to my yard. Can you do anything? It's supposed to be compact cars and golf carts. And they said, that's a city ordinance. We won't touch it. They said, there's nothing you can do. That was frustrating.
I don't want to review.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this. Okay, so right now, we currently have a motion and a second. All in favor? I'm gonna do a roll call. Yeah, I'll do a roll call, Karen.
Commissioner DeVito? Aye. Commissioner Bailey?
Nay.
Commissioner Banks?
Yeah, I ain't satisfied.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Somebody?
I just want to let everybody know, I think it's a good compromise that Commissioner DeVito came up with. We put the fence where it belongs, and then we will, I'm sure there will be more discussion as to what more we have to do with that piece of property as far as the city is concerned. So don't go away thinking that you've lost here. I just think that, we have to end one piece of that, and that piece really is that that piece of property belongs to the city. And at that point, once that happens again, the city, I'm sure Ms. Tillman will sit down with you and sit down with whoever else wants to talk about how to deal with parking. It'll happen again. I think they're very much people that enjoy and invite compromise here. So I don't want you to go away feeling like you've lost here, you really haven't. We just have to put things back into perspective.
Mayor, the next item is brought back to you, the reimbursement of legal fees for conversion. This has been going on for months, and really any vendor that we have where we owe money, and something can kind of goes on and on and on, they can come to us for essentially a pay request to, until it's resolved. And I know there's been another appeal, so it's, carries on, but I really encourage the commission to pay this bill. Let's be up to date on this expenditure. This is an expense to the city. Let's get it paid and then, deal with any additional costs that we know are coming over the months to come.
Okay. Commissioners, we're looking for a motion, please.
Okay, I am going to move that we defer this decision until we hear further from Mr. Young and his firm about the implications of the appeal. That was a motion.
Reinstate your motion.
That was the motion, so you want to defer this, you're making a motion to defer this again?
Yes, because or maybe we should just have the city attorney tell us what the status is. Some of us got a communication today by email that said an appeal has been filed to the Florida Supreme Court. So, the last I heard, I didn't hear, we haven't heard from our city attorney as to the implications of the appeal. So I would like to hear about that. And actually, I don't think that this should really come before us on a memo from the city manager because it's a legal issue. And the questions that we had is, are we required to pay the fee? I don't think this is analogous to a vendor selling the city something. It's not services provided in installments. This is a very serious issue. And I want to be fair to Commissioner Burton, but we also have to be very sure that, as Mr. Young said back in February, that it wasn't the right time, that it's the right time, and we know that we have the obligation. So, I want to hear from Mr. Young.
What specifically would you like to go, Commissioner? So I can make sure I can answer it appropriately.
Well, what is the posture? The appellate court decision is, it was very favorable to Commissioner Burton, as your law firm's memo stated, but that appellate court decision has been appealed.
It has, my understanding, it was the last minute appeal filed. I also understand that this does not fall under the mandatory requirement of the Florida Supreme Court to review. I also believe that there was no notice of rehearing, no request for rehearing, which usually is required before the Florida Supreme Court will take up the case. I'm not going to tell you that I can judge what the Florida Supreme Court would do, okay? I anticipate that this will not be reviewed by the Florida Supreme Court, but I'm not a Supreme Court member. They may have some other arbitrary reason to do so. However, having said that, to answer your first question, our legal opinion is, has been and remains, that as Burton's legal fees, the city has an obligation to reimburse her for those fees. And we see no reason why they should not be reimbursed at this time.
Question, the first fee, this thing it's just like a clock, it keep on ticking and running. Now, when is it gonna come to a head? People come for us out here to do the city business, and we, oh God, recall. Now, it's time for it to come to the head, you either is or not. You're gonna violate or whatever the rule is. I'm confused too. Not only the Supreme Court and the attorneys, I'm confused.
And Mayor, I
I don't know whether we, what we gonna do, whether we gonna pay, I read it, one piece of paper say you got to be paid. And another piece of paper I get saying that.
Commissioner, this commission has engaged us to be your legal counsel, to apply your legal. We have done so. If you choose to take input from other sources, there's very little I can do about that, other than to tell you, I'm very comfortable, I'm very confident in what our opinion is in this matter.
Well, I have a little issue there. First of all, I think the first thing that has to happen is both the mayor and Commissioner Burton has to recuse himself to any vote at this time.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Don't beg my pardon. I say it's properly that you have to recuse yourself because this directly affects you.
I beg your
There
pardon.
is, you can beg all your pardon you want. Both you and the mayor being recalled and setting a precedent for this is monetary monies in your pocket. It is not something unheard of. And Mr. Jones, would you like to weigh in on that?
What specifically, Commissioner?
Just specifically as I can make it, I think both the mayor and Ms. Burke have to recuse themselves on the vote for this, for them to be able to vote on whether or not they get recall money.
Is that based upon the fact that there's an additional recall that involves?
Based upon the fact that they would be getting the check.
This vote would have nothing to do with the mayor receiving a check for
The
reimbursement.
mayor's being recalled as well. This will set a precedent that if it gets paid, then therefore it would be paid for the next one. Yes, it does set a precedent.
We already have a previous commissioner.
No, we don't. We have a check that was written behind closed doors. It never went through the commission.
Okay, Mr. Bailey.
No, don't say anything. I'm
No,
standing. Go ahead and bang that one more
No,
time.
you're gonna be respectful here.
No, I am
Yes, you
respectful.
are. No,
I'm
you're not.
asking for
You're
an
not being
answer to my
respectful.
question.
And I'm saying that I'm not involved in that recall, and if
You're
you're not.
involved in
Okay,
a
full ownership.
recall.
Wait a second.
Of this recall.
Wait a
You're
second.
involved in a
I'm not
recall.
involved in this recall that we're currently
But
addressing,
will it set a
But you
precedent
are.
that you will get?
but you are.
Yes,
Yes, you
you are.
Yes, you are.
No, ma'am.
Yes, you are.
And
So with that, okay, so right now,
He
we've
asked
got.
a question, could we get Mr. Young's answer?
Mr.
I think the
Young.
question was, does anyone have to recuse themselves?
I believe it would be most appropriate if Commissioner Burton didn't recuse herself from the vote.
Because
And of course, I will recuse myself from the vote,
She did.
but I will also ask for Commissioner Bailey to recuse himself from this particular vote, because after all, he testified against me. He accused me of perjury during that that testimony. He has signed the latest recall petition on me. And, I just don't think, basically, most of the fees came after he got into the fray and said I perjured myself, which was found not to be true.
Well,
So
another thing
I believe that he
testified-
should recuse himself on this particular bill.
Well, the only thing that I can testify and the other should have as well was what was public record. That's the only thing I testified, not my opinion. It was obvious that there wasn't any city clerk. It was obvious that this memo right here states.
The court has already decided on what was happening on the recall.
I
Wait,
was
both of
talking.
you, both of you,
I was talking.
both of you.
This states that all the city business for
It's already been
elections should have
decided.
gone up there. That's what I testified on. And there's the memo, man, that you signed. So I testified, you're right, the same thing that you should have.
I should not have, I should not have.
But anyway,
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I tell you what, let's
Commissioner
all three recuse ourselves and just get that out there.
DeVito.
Okay. I would like to make a motion, and the motion I am making is because, I certainly I value, Mr. Young's recommendation. George Holmes and Young are our attorneys. I will have to say, and this is somewhat facetiously, but there's a grain of truth to it. At this point, I feel like the city commission is receiving as much or more legal advice from the members of the recall committee than we are our attorneys. And specifically, we have been advised that if we as commissioners vote to pay these legal fees, that we will be sued personally and will be personally liable for them. We received that communication today. And I think we need some response on that.
Go ahead.
But my motion is that we recognize, that we recognize the legal authorities that advise us that under certain circumstances, we are required to pay legal fees in the event of a recall, but that we defer the final decision to pay fees until Commissioner Burton's recall case is finally decided by the Supreme Court, since there is an appeal.
I second that. Is that a motion?
That was a motion.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Burton can participate in the discussion under the rules, but you cannot vote. Is my opinion.
Okay, the Supreme Court, I think you put that very well when you first spoke about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can take up to 30, possibly 70 days to come to their conclusion. That's a long time. This is a big bill, unfortunately, and it's a lot of money out of my personal pocket. I need that money to pay my bills. And I think that this, I've gone 3 months now, 3 months, to try and get this money paid to me, which is owed to me by the city. And I think it's very unfair that they've been allowed to keep this money hostage and play it up like I am doing something wrong. I am not doing anything wrong. This is owed to me, and I want my money. It's as simple as that. And that's the way it should be done. And it's a law. There's a law that says, I don't even have to bring this to a vote. Okay? It's already out there that this is how it's done. You pay the bill of anybody, okay, that's doing their duty up here as a commissioner or anything, having to do with the city, that hasn't done anything wrong, which I have not. That's been proven that I've not done anything wrong. And so it comes to the point where it's pay me. Pay me. Even if I did something wrong, you'd have to pay me by the law. So it's just time to get over this foolishness that you're doing and stop holding this and holding me as a hostage so that all these people that are messing with it can keep messing with it. There's no reason to. So maybe I'm a little emotional right now, but it is time to set this bill straight.
You have a motion and a
I
second.
will in just a second. I do want some clarification, that you stated that it goes in their pocket. It does not go in our pockets. Any of these legal fees are reimbursed, correct? They've already been paid. Her legal fees.
Reimbursement, yes, it would.
Yeah, so her legal fees have already, she has already paid those out of pocket. It would be a reimbursement back to her.
I'm not aware of her personal dealings with her attorney. She would have to answer to that, but typically, she has paid the attorney and this is reimbursement.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's all right here. If you look at the packet, the whole bill is in there. You can see how much I paid, when I paid it, and I'm just saying, I deserve to get this money back.
Mayor,
Okay, yes.
I think, I understand this is a very emotional issue, and I have some emotions about it myself, but I think we're supposed to address each other when we debate motions and not make speeches to the public.
I'm gonna open it up. I think we've got some public.
My name's Cheryl Day, 244 South Prospect. What I see happening here is this recall movement
They don't want people to get reimbursed for their legal fees. They can come and they can put all this pressure, force people to have all these legal bills, and then they just say, oops, sorry, we're bad. Just like they did with Cynthia. They had her go, it was found that it was unfounded. Now she has a bill to pay because they forced her to do that. You must pay her bills. If you do this or don't do this, this group here will continue their pressure like they're doing with Michelle and not Lisa, of course, because, well, they've already said why, or whoever else they want to do it to. It is a recall effort. It's part of their pressure, their constant financial pressure. We need to see it for what it is. This is harassment. This recall group is harassing us financially, emotionally, and in this group. Enough is enough. You need to stop what you're doing. Stop it. Stop it, recall. Enough.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Mayor, if I could point of order, speakers under our rules are supposed to address the commission, not the audience.
Craig Oak, 601 Lemon Avenue. I'm the one being sued, that was sued by Cynthia Burton. So I do have a dog in this fight. When Doc Bailey had a lady from St. Augustine come in a few months ago and really lay it to him right here at the podium. City attorney, if he had sued her, would y'all be paying his bills?
But your question is, if the commissioner had sued the person that came in and in public comment made accusations.
She didn't have to sue me, she chose to sue me. It was a choice. If he chose
It wasn't
to
my
sue.
choice to be recalled. It was not my choice to be recalled.
It wasn't his choice to have that lady come in here and stand at the podium and really zero in on him and nail him to the wall. If he chose to sue her, would it be the same criteria to pay his bills? It's a choice. He chose to sue me.
Mayor, if I could,
It was a choice. It would be the same thing. It would be a choice.
not an exchange.
It would be a choice. And if your case is not over with, it's the Supreme Court, and you don't know what you're talking about.
Of course I don't.
Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
My name's Pat Maiden. I live at 202 Oleander. My face is red, not because my blood pressure is high, but because I'm taking prednisone. I am here to say that this commission was legally elected by many people in Crescent City to do the job they've been doing. And they're doing a good job. And if somebody else thinks they can do it better, they have the choice to run at the next election. And meanwhile, we don't really know what it is they're wanting to do. The city is looking better than it's looked in years. We have good sheriff's protection. You can see the difference on the streets. And if we let this recall thing break the city and split us apart, this is not who we are. We're nice, decent people. In fact, that gentleman just pushed me aside to get in front of me to speak. And that's not who we are here. So I'm here to speak for democracy, all right? Just that simple. We want things to be fair and decent and if you let people come along and bully us like this, nobody's ever gonna run for office again. That's because they're gonna get thrown out for some nefarious made-up reason. So people, let's get this settled nicely and get this recall business stopped.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make a motion that we take.
You have a motion. Open discussion.
So, in a second. So we can vote on that at this time, and if you want to make another motion, should that fail, should her motion fail, then you can make another motion.
Castillo, 936 Lake Argento. I want to begin by making it very clear, the recall process does not need to involve lawyers. That's something that's not included in the recall statute. When lawyers are involved, you first have to look at why they're involved and who brought them in. And so far, Cynthia Burton has filed 3 lawsuits. So in all three cases, she's the one that's brought the lawyers into the picture. That's an important consideration for you as commissioners. Was she the defendant? No, she was the plaintiff in all situations. Very important to point out, when the first ruling came out, y'all didn't vote to deny her legal fees. Y'all decided there was an appeal, you were gonna wait until the appeal process took place. There was another appeal process that took place. That one has concluded. She has not been successful in quashing the recall because there's currently an appeal, it's quite clear, an invocation to the Supreme Court has been made. So this is the same courtesy that the recall, that the recall is expecting that you have given Commissioner Byrne. This is not final. And very important, I want to know why your city attorney has selectively picked and chosen specific AGO opinions to align with paying recall fees and conveniently left out other ones. So AGO 8969 is the one that was included in City Attorney Pickens's memo. You have another case about the Thornburg versus the City of Walton. One was dated December 17, 1997. The other one was dated October 1990. There are two newer AGO opinions, AGO 8075, dated January 15, 1998, specifically addressing voting to pay for legal fees for an action to test the legal sufficiency of the allegations in a recall petition. And what the AGO opinion says is you can be held personally liable for the expenditure. I'll read you the summary word for word. A municipality may not expend public funds to institute and prosecute a legal action to test the legal sufficiency of the allegations contained in the legal petition, recall petition, filed against one of the members of the city commission, and when municipal funds are improperly and not in good faith expended for that purpose, any member of the governing body who voted to expend the funds may be held personally liable for the expenditure. There's also AGO 74-192, which was also came after 8969, November 4th, 1998. And it says very specifically, if you want to expend county funds, public funds for legal fees, you need to first use your own city attorney. This was not done. So again, thank you.
I'll be happy to address both of those if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead, please.
First, Commissioner DeVito, earlier you mentioned the fact that you felt like you were getting more legal advice from other folks than your.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay, well, in my line of work, quality beats volume. Okay. The question is, why did we focus on particular Attorney General opinions, cases, or the Supreme Court cases I might mention? It's because those are the ones that apply to this set of facts, or the closest that apply to this set of facts and have not been overturned or overruled, which is the president I'm obligated to, and I know you know that. 8075 I can address right off the top of my head because that specifically, even though it dealt with a recall, it was an opinion as to whether or not the municipality could expend public funds to get involved itself, not the commissioners. There is a complete distinction there. The second one has to do with the county, and when it comes to particular items, and I'd have to go back and review all of it, but the city attorney is not obligated and should not be involved in issues that are outside of the municipal area. Okay, I'm counsel to this commission. I don't have a favorite in this game. I don't have a favorite here. What I have is an obligation and an ethical duty to interpret the law and to apply it and to advise you the best I can. That has been done. I would remind this council that as part of the research, there are 2 criteria to reimburse. And there are multiple cases to include Thornburg. I just found another Attorney General opinion here from 1996, specifically going back and laying out the facts that are exactly like ours. Not one of them does it require a successful litigation to reimburse. It has 2 criteria. Two-part test. The litigation must arise out of its connection with the performance of their official duties and serve a public purpose. And the Florida Supreme Court has already decided that a defense of a recall election fits that category. And there are multiple Attorney General opinions that also agree. The commission is the deciding body, not the attorney. I am not the one making this decision. My obligation is to advise you on what the law is and what your obligations are. I've done that. Failure to reimburse these fees, in my opinion, will, and could be very well justified to more litigation against this municipality.
So, Mayor, if I could amend my motion, and my point is, I fully recognize that there is a current legal authority on this. I want to be fair to Commissioner Burton, just like I hope that she would be fair to me and that we would all be fair to each other. I think we should follow the law. And before, I wanted to wait for the appellate court decision. In this case, because there is an appeal pending before the Supreme Court, I would like for all of us to have the certainty that there is finality here, that the Supreme Court is not going to say anything different than what is in Thornburg, the case that Mr. Youngster is basing the recommendation on. And I have no, hold on just a second, I have no problem paying these fees. And some of the speakers we heard tonight seem to feel that what we do right now is either gonna stop the recalls or whatever. I think we need to talk about that whole process. But to me, I just want to be certain for our own behalf and for the city that this is what we're supposed to do. Once the Supreme Court rules, it will be final. And I will have no problem paying Commissioner Burton's legal fees if there's no change in the current law. No problem whatsoever. So that's my motion.
Mr. Young, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes.
I guess the Supreme Court has up to 60 days to accept whether or not they'll hear this. And then at that point, once they hear it, how long could it take for them to actually hear it?
It depends on what we fit into their schedule. I'd have to go and look and see what their fall and winter schedule looks like. You're talking anywhere from 6 months to a year. But again, until the Supreme Court, one, says it takes it up, and two, then considers it, if it does, and I'm arguing you my thoughts on that, the law is what the District Court of Appeals has ruled. And again, if the commission has a reason to believe that it should come to fruition before they decide to pay, that's up to the commission. But if you're waiting to see if she's unsuccessful, that is not a criteria.
No.
I just want to make sure, so everybody understands.
You said, just, to me, there's uncertainty out there, and so.
Why wait? Why wait? Nothing's, it's only gonna get more expensive.
So what's the uncertainty? What's your uncertainty?
Because we don't know what the ruling will say.
It doesn't matter, you still owe the money.
Quiet.
Excuse me, Mayor, could you ask the last two rows to keep quiet? We cannot hear what's going on up there.
Thank you.
My bad.
Audience, I'm gonna ask you please during this, be respectful.
I mean, I can't do anything better than that. This is very uncharted territory for us. I think we need to discuss, some of the circumstances that we're in. The mayor brought this up at the delegation meeting last January. We didn't talk about it. I think it would be a good idea for us to talk about it. Because absolutely, there is a lot of chaos here. There's a lot of expense here. And I recognize that.
It's gonna be more. I think that,
The motion and the second.
in fairness to, also in fairness to each of us as a commission, to know that somebody's got that money out there already, that they have paid that, knowing that it could be another 6 months to a year.
I am fully sensible of that. I recognize that. It's a problem.
Okay, we currently have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Burton, you've recused yourself from voting, and you'll fill out the proper form.
I haven't told them. Do I have that form, Karen?
I think everything else is on the roll call. If you want to, I can get it
Oh,
to you
after
now.
the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
what are we gonna be voting on?
Commissioner
All
DeVita has made a motion that we wait, defer the payment until after the Supreme Court hears this and there's a deciding factor.
Well, or actually until a final, which it could be if they reject the appeal, then it would be final. If they say we're not hearing the appeal, it's done.
Yeah, but what if we, people, the citizen, let me, give me 5 minutes.
You got, okay, you got it.
The people of this town is tired of coming out here hearing all this rhetoric. They tired of it. They want us to tend to the city business. And to me, this is not part of the city business. Talking about recall. Now, to me personally, I think the attorney done did his homework by the law. I think we need to pay the lady, but I know what y'all done made the motion, but I'm expressing my opinion. Tired, we ought to be tired. I don't care if the recall wins. It's time for us to pay her money. And I said, keep on stacking it up. That's all we doing is stacking it up. We're gonna have to pay them. So why we keep on stacking it up?
Okay,
Now I'm through.
currently we have a motion to defer the payment. Karen, I asked you to do a recall, to do a recall. To do a roll call.
Commissioner Revito?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner Bates?
No.
Mayor Myers?
No. Motion fails. So at this time, I can entertain another motion if somebody wants to make another motion.
I make a motion that we pay our money.
Amen.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Well, I will second that for the purpose of discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So let's have discussion.
Okay, I made the motion that we defer the payment until we hear from the Supreme Court, which I'm hoping will be soon. I'm just not comfortable based on our potential liability as commissioners. I want Commissioner Burton to be paid as soon as possible, but I don't think this month is the time. And I don't think that whether we pay Commissioner Burton today or tomorrow is going to address people's concerns about repeated recall petitions. This payment is not going to stop that. It's my belief that eventually we will pay this bill. And I am very cognizant, and I hope the public is very cognizant, that it results in a big bill for the city. So it's my belief that we will pay it. I just want to have the certainty of having the appeal be final.
Mayor,
Commissioner Banks.
Your Honor, here again. Look, the people of this town, what percentage of the people that voted for the recall? It's more people in Crescent City than it's about 1,600 people in Crescent City. We basing it on 102 or 3. It's more than 102 or 3 voters in this town. Some people are tired of this.
But those are the ones who showed up, sir, for the vote.
Yeah, but you got some people that are not able to show.
Okay.
Everybody has an opportunity to vote.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would like our attorney to address you mentioned you may be liable, personally liable to be sued. I'd ask him to address that issue.
Okay. You and I've got two speakers and then we're gonna close it down.
There's nothing that comes to mind based upon the fact that you are debating this in the public. You're not violating sunshine law rules regarding this that I'm aware of. You're making this decision in the public. You're making this decision with input, and you have been advised by legal counsel. I am not aware of any grounds by which a successful suit against anyone here personally could be done based upon that vote. That's not to say that somebody may not try to sue you individually. However, sovereign immunity and many other defenses protect council members in the performance of their duties. And this is something you're doing in the performance of your duties. So what you're wanting.
I've got two speakers. Please come forward, state.
Tracy Eckhart, 109 North Prospect Street. I am appalled that we have a city attorney that has not been listened to. I am appalled that we have someone that brags that she is an attorney that does not understand the law that is being given to her. It's embarrassing.
Mayor?
This,
Order, I would appreciate not being targeted.
hey, you have targeted other people. I have my 3 minutes.
Okay, if you'll just keep it.
Not for
no
personally
personal-
disparaging remarks.
No personal disparagement.
Oh, wow, that's something new here. Because the little man behind me does nothing but disparage Commissioner Burton or myself or anybody else that we're attached to. Now, if you're concerned about the city taxpayer money being spent on such ridiculous things, I think there's a solution. You pay the commissioner what she's due, and the city sues recall for causing the trouble. Because it's based on lies, half-truths, and it's an embarrassment to our town. Anybody that would go on Facebook would say, oh my God, what is wrong with that place? I wouldn't want to live there. And they do. But I also publicly want to say that I do not have a Facebook account. I have never had a Facebook account. And I am tired of being targeted as well as a citizen that volunteers many different ways in this community. And I am sick of this little prick back here that is attacking us. It's time that you do what you're supposed to do, pay your legal fees. And it does matter that you pay it now. Shame on you, DeVito.
Dan Miller. Dan Miller. All right, well, Catio 936 Lake Argenta, that was the 4th time that she just told me to F off. I have not once returned the favor, but I can absolutely prove that she's on Facebook. And not only that, that she set up fake Facebook profiles under my name. I'm gonna end there because that's not what I want to use my time for. I want to say, Mayor Myers, I really do think you need to recuse yourself from this vote because you recused yourself from being on the canvassing board for Commissioner Burke. So there's a clear bias there, and I think going back to what we were saying earlier about the legal fees, it all comes down to what do you think your liability is going to be as individual commissioners? And we have experts in First Amendment. Our lawyers, there's not a single First Amendment issue in the last 25 years that they have not had their fingers in. So they are the leading experts. And if you would like, you can defer this, and for the next meeting, I will make sure that they're available to answer your questions. Because I can tell you from extensive conversations, there is no case law that mandates that you pay an unsuccessful commissioner. And the situation we're dealing with is a pending litigation at the Supreme Court. So I think it's very reasonable that this decision be held off until the Supreme Court of Florida makes its decision, however they decide. Because again, as commissioners, you have to do what's in the interest of the city, not what's in the interest of an individual commissioner. And if you look at the results of the election, it's quite clear what the city wants. 182 votes, that is very significant when you have a supervisor.
Okay.
It actually is very
Okay,
significant.
okay,
You can close this, please.
So, Karen, how much more time do we have?
So yeah, I've got a minute left. So what I would like to say is when you look at all the totality of the evidence, this is not final, and that's very important. And it's very clear there is no precedent to pay an unsuccessful commissioner. If you can find a case, by all means, share it with me. Thank you.
Okay, we currently have a motion to pay this legal fee, and we have a second. Karen, will you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner DeVito?
Nay.
Commissioner Bailey?
Nay.
Commissioner Banks?
Yeah.
Mayor Myers?
Yes.
Mayor, could I just say something?
No, I'm closing Okay, let's go to the appointment of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint, let me see. Did I get your name right, Steve?
Kenworthy.
Yes, Stephen Kenworthy.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint Stephen Kenworthy. We have a second.
To the, planning and zoning board.
Karen, I can go through the preliminaries and then we'll So this is a vacancy on the planning and zoning board. We did receive 3 applications for the position. One is from Daniel Dodge. He was recently appointed to the Historic Preservation Board. Also, Michael Frank, I believe he formerly was an employee at some point. My understanding is he's a winter resident, or maybe he's moved here full time.
No, he votes here.
I get that, but my understanding is he's gone for the summer.
No, he's here.
And the third candidate is Stephen Kenworthy, who has been a volunteer with the Main Street organization, been very involved, and wants to increase his involvement with certain plans.
Is there one position or is it 3?
Just one position.
One position.
Okay.
So we have, currently we have a motion for Stephen Kenworthy. Do I have a second? And then I'll allow public comment after I get a second. Get a second. That motion, fails for lack of a second at this time.
I nominate Dan Don.
Do we have a second? Yes.
I don't understand, can back up and rephrase it again, so I can get a good understanding of what.
So this is for the planning and zoning, Ted Karma.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 3 applicants. We've got Dan Dodge, he was just recently appointed to the historic, portion of the planning and zoning. And then we have Michael Frank.
I just had a meeting with Michael Frank at 4:00. He's not
Okay,
coming.
let me finish, please. And then we have Stephen Kenworthy. Mr. Kenworthy, I believe he moved here a year and a half ago, and has been, working in the community as well. So what the motion that Commissioner Burton had was to, nominate Stephen Kenworthy for the planning and zoning appointment. And then that failed.
I was about to second Commissioner Bailey's motion nominating Dan Dodge.
Okay.
I understand.
So we currently have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment at this time? Public comment?
I have a comment that I wanted to make. We just put him on the historical,
We did.
so therefore you have to give that up, I guess?
You have to give that position up.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanna make sure that you can't be both, that's all.
Well, actually, Mayor, for clarification, it's my understanding, and Charles can confirm this, that the way our ordinance reads, the planning and zoning board is the historical board with the addition of 2 additional members. And so it's the historical board as the planning and zoning board plus 2 additional people who only sit when you're considering something that's coming before the historical board. So yes, if Mr. Dodge moves into a full planning and zoning position, then someone would have to be appointed to fill his seat for the historical board. That is part of the planning and zoning commission at this point. So I personally think that we have 3 very good qualified, well, we have 3 very good applicants. I'm sorry, Mayor, can I keep talking? Okay, so
Leaving the room.
I think we have 3 very kind members of our community. When you look at their experience and their resumes, I think each person is a very nice person and very public spirited. Mr. Frank is an architect. He has a lot to contribute. Planning and zoning is the most significant board in any city. It makes very significant decisions about, well, we're rewriting our code right now. They make final decisions in some cases about conditional uses and other kinds of uses. Mr. Dodge has a very, very long resume. And I think he's a former commissioner. I think he's a former commissioner for 6 years in another county in Florida. And he has a lot of experience, I think, in municipal government. And I think he understands planning and zoning. So to me, he's got qualifications, and that's something that we really need right now, given that we're in the middle of our land development code.
So, well, that said, he would have to resign his historic position.
That's all I'm asking.
That's what she asked.
Okay.
Roundabout way, he has
I'd like to ask Mr. Dodge if he's willing to do that.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Karen, would you do roll call for us, please?
Commissioner Burke,
No.
Commissioner Banks,
For Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
No. Okay, so it passes.
Mayor, the next item is we have a vacancy on our, actually, we have 2 vacancies on our tree and gardens board. We have 2 members that missed 3 or more consecutive meetings. We have 1 application from Ms. Bowerman. She's not feeling well today, could not be here today. And the other applicant, the other position, the owner, Pat Langdon, expressed a desire to stay on the board in spite of her attendance record.
So we have a Jean Bowerman's application.
Yes, our application's in your packet.
Okay, want a motion for Jean Bowerman?
May I ask a question first? Could you inform me more about the attendance thing? I'm not.
The two members missed 3 or more meetings in a row, which in our regulations means you're not eligible to serve on the board. That board did vote to replace them, to remove them from the board.
They did vote to
They
replace
did,
them?
yeah, the tree board.
Were they excused absences or just didn't show up?
Just didn't show up.
Well, I would like to make a motion. I would just like to nominate Jean Bowerman for the Trees and Gardens Board. She has associate's degree in ornamental horticulture and has worked 30+ years in retail and wholesale horticulture industry. And I've seen her yard, and it's great.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Okay, Karen, will you do a roll call for us, please? Do we have any more discussion on this? No. Do we have any public comment on this? Okay. Karen, do roll call, please.
Commissioner Burton,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks?
Yep.
Commissioner Daly?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Wow, we can get along on that.
I don't need any, yeah,
Mayor, I have a question.
yes.
So I'm not really sure about, the status of Ms. Langdon. I didn't know the board could vote its members off. I don't know that we need to take action today because I'm just not sure what's happened here exactly.
And we're not taking action on her. It's just, we have two vacancies.
Yes, could be a
I
possibility.
looked at it, it's not really addressed in the ordinance.
No, it's not.
But the 3 consecutive vacancies or absences is addressed in either our policies or in that ordinance. And then what happens after that is not addressed, so they want active members, so they requested you fill this position.
Okay, but there's no one applying.
Correct.
Okay, so we could re-advertise it and Ms. Langdon could apply.
Yes.
Okay.
Here, the next item is release of lien for 225 South Summer Street. This is one of the 3 properties, how long ago it was, February 22. We sent out letters notifying we were gonna go to foreclosure. And the other 2 properties, actually, they were brought into compliance and we didn't have to go that route. This one, we discovered that errors were made previous years. Meetings were not properly noticed. And so my recommendation is we release this lien, and Pam is here to make a presentation to you up on the history of that case.
I have a question. Can we make a motion, and if we agree, do we have to have a presentation? Is that required?
No, just for your benefit, for your decision.
All the commissioners,
If you read through it and you.
if they don't want it, so if you want to make a motion, then please make a motion.
I think I'm comfortable enough with this, that I would make a motion to accept the staff recommendation to release the lien for 225 South Summit Street.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second, commissioners, do you have any further discussion, or would you like for Pam to give a presentation?
I don't have a PowerPoint. That, you're saying it's in compliance now?
Yes, as far as I know. I've been here 6 years, been in compliance as long as I've been here.
So it's been there for 6 years in compliance?
Yeah, it was a 2011 case, so.
All right.
And you're looking at others cases like this, correct, just to make sure that.
Yes.
That was my concern. Okay, with that, we're gonna go ahead, we have a motion and a second, do we have any public comment on this? Okay, Karen, go ahead and do a roll call for us, please.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Commissioner Daly?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Mayor, the next item is the abatement of property at 714 Bay Lane. If you recall, the church, this property burned to the ground. There's quite a bit of debris there, very dangerous situation. Pam does have a presentation for that. She's gonna load up the PowerPoint. So we've contacted and communicated with the property owner, instructed them to please remove the debris from the site. It's very unsafe. We have not gotten any action. So my recommendation is that we abate the site, get it completely cleaned up, and lien the property for the cost.
Yes.
Because we think it's been, there's been plenty of time for the property owner to take action.
I have a question for the city manager. So, when I read this, I mean, the pictures are terrible, this is where the fire was. Do we have money in the budget for the abatement? Or where would the funds come from? And you don't mention, what the approximate cost might be.
Correct, I did get this afternoon, we got an estimate for $5,350, $5,350, which I think is pretty good to completely clean the site, including the underbrush, the overgrowth, the back edge of the site. So it'd be clean from street to street. This will come out of our abatement line, budget and code enforcement.
And do we, I mean, is there enough money in there
I believe so.
currently?
How's your lien on the property then, or?
We would lien the property and eventually we'd probably come to you for foreclosure proceedings.
There has been a lien on this property there currently, isn't there?
There's a lien, yes.
Yeah, there's a lien on the property currently. Go ahead.
There's a history of 714 Bay Street. You see there the cases listed over the last 10 years, it's constantly in violation. Case 1310-28, 1145. It's in violation of numerous ordinances. And the commission reduced and released that lien back in 2018 for $1,555.65. 2016 case, that case was not heard by the Code Enforcement Board. 2018, the property was in violation, chapter 10, section 10-20 and 10-27. In 2022, it was again in violation of chapter 10, section 10-20. And the Code Enforcement Board liened the property in February of 2023. Currently, the lien is $3,375. Then in April, the structure was burned, which I contacted the property owner to remove the rubble of the structure to no avail. I believe Captain Ushery, and I'll let him speak on that if he likes, has contacted the property owner with no positive results, right? No positive feedback then. Pictures were taken on May 16th and April 10th. There's a concrete block wall there. You can see in the right-hand picture that is not, there's a better picture of it. It's not structurally sound. It's a hazard to the community. These pictures were taken on May 16th. The property is not compliant and a hazard to the neighbors and citizens of Crescent City, and we are requesting permission to abate the nuisance.
You said the owner is Roy Floyd? Or is it Eric? Or he been dead about 15 years.
The property is owned by Princeton Commercial Holdings.
Oh, okay.
And there's been no response from them whatsoever.
No, not from Princeton Holdings, no.
Where are they from? Where's?
They're in California.
Did you say this Captain Ushery did get a hold of him, or did?
He spoke to the owner, I believe.
That was way back, that was.
That was after the building burned.
So is this Princeton Commercial Place the people that you spoke to, Captain, or you were after that?
It's been a little bit, this is when we were dealing with this Mauricio Cruz that was staying in front of that building. You remember the homeless man that was staying there?
I remember.
We were trying to get compliance to get a trespass warning issued for him there, but they were allowing him to stay on the front of the property. So if you'll just give me just a second, I'll do a little bit of research as fast as I can.
Okay.
I did misspeak, the estimate was $5,750.
Key thing, the proper value out of there. I doubt we get the 5,000 back. The property ain't valued that much.
Oh, if we sold it, you mean?
Yes, no, I doubt you get 2,000 for it.
Well, I think a lot would be worth that cleaned off, and I think you'll recoup the money.
Potentially, it could be a non-conforming lot, or we might consider splitting it, selling it to the east side, it's a possibility, like we did another lot in that block.
Typically when something like this, and when we would do this abatement, we give them how much notice? 30 days?
That would depend.
Do you have an order from a judge or a magistrate?
No.
Dated yet? Then you gotta get an order.
That's, right, you guys approve it, and we go through, and how long does that take to get the order?
If there's no response, typically within 3 months, we have an order from the judge. As soon as the hearing can be set, and his docket's pretty full right now. So I don't, it's hard for me to guess, but typically within 3 months, we can have this done. The normal, what I have seen the circuit judge do primarily around here is once we have succeeded in getting the order, the judge will give them 30 days, final notice to clean it up. And when they don't, then you're authorized to proceed, go forward, clean it up, and involve all your costs, including any legal fees and costs, as part of the lien.
So it's long.
How long would it be, sir, after we do the cost and clean it up before they can bring it to foreclosure?
30 days.
Wait a minute.
Time for an appeal.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did I hear Pam say that there currently is a lien on the property?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
there's a code enforcement lien on the property.
That's what I thought. So I have a question for Mr. Young. Would it be any quicker just to foreclose on the property? Would it speed things up?
Well, 2 issues there, and it depends on how the city views it. You know, a nuisance abatement is, this primary mission is for the safety of the citizens of the community, because you want to abate the nuisance that's there.
Right.
If we reverse the process and foreclose on the code enforcement lien that is currently there, however long that process takes, again, probably 3 to 6 months would be my guess, and something like that. If we are successful, I just say if we are successful, because I don't know all the details that are out there, how many defendants, where they're at, et cetera, whether or not they respond. If they don't, especially if we get a default judgment, then it goes just like you have on a foreclosure for a mortgage, it goes to auction, public auction. So if no one purchases it, public auction, then it becomes the city's, and then the city's obligated to clean it up, and you're not gonna get that money back unless you sell it for enough money. The other problem is if you go to auction, it will be sold, and then it's still not cleaned up, and if they refuse to clean it up, then you're right back to nuisance abatement.
Okay, so that's my bottom line. So it doesn't, there's no advantage to us to just foreclosing on it first. We're kind of stuck.
Yeah, sometimes there are, and we try to look at those and pick those out so we can get them faster, but recently, we have not been successful getting there faster that route than through the nuisance abatement first, foreclosure after.
Well, so, and Mayor, I apologize, I had to step out. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Not yet.
Okay, so, but would this property be suitable, for us to both vote for abatement and then authorize the, city staff to send them a foreclosure letter and make them an offer
We
to
cannot,
just, you know, take the property?
we couldn't foreclose on it until after the nuisance abatement order was signed by the judge.
Do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, do one thing at a time.
So let me ask a question, and then I'm gonna ask for a motion on this. So if we agree to vote for the abatement, she contacts the owner, and he allows us, could he allow us without going to the judge? Could he sign an agreement and allow us to go ahead and pay for the cleanup?
Absolutely, we'd have to get authorization and make sure it's sufficient to allow us to go onto the property. That way they can't accuse us of any type of trespass or criminal mischief.
But he could do that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Mayor,
so, yeah.
so it was my hope, this property has been a nuisance for years. And I would like to see us make the owner aware that the liens are gonna keep piling up, and at least make an offer just to accept a deed to the property. If the owner has clear title, and we don't know that yet, correct?
We run a title search prior to any type of action because we have to know all the defendants are legally.
Right.
To sue in case there are other lien holders out there or other property owners in case it's not owned by one individual. So that's what we have to do prior to that, and we would still have to go through that process. I would have to do a little research and get back to you on whether or not it would be proper for the city to essentially shortcut the foreclosure process and say, hey, will you deed your property to us?
And I think when you do that, we're gonna have the liability for the cleanup.
You still have liability for cleanup, but I just want to check to make sure any eminent domain procedures are not violated by shortcut in that process.
I just,
So can I get a motion?
for the abatement?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, I move that we authorize city staff to move forward with abatement of the nuisance, lost my property, 714 Bay Street.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Do we have any public comment on this? Okay, no public comment. Erica, will you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Great work.
Mayor, the next item is something I brought up to you before. We're looking to grout a stormwater pipe on North Lake Street. This is the pipe between the log cabin house and the house this side of it. It's washing out all the property on the outside of the pipe on both sides, and both property owners are impacted. The delay has been trying to get more bids for this job. We were unsuccessful. The bid we did get is for
19,000 or something?
I think it's actually, we went up to
560.
23,530. We got it updated today. So just as a little bit more, the option would be to sleeve the pipe, to run another pipe in. And that option is about $63,000.
But they believe that this will be the solution to this problem.
Yes, they would go through and seal every joint inside the pipe all the way through, which would correct the problem. And then we would fill in, we have fill dirt, we would fill in the properties to restore the damage to the washout areas. This just gets worse every time rains, and now rain season's on us. So I'm requesting approval to hire Atlantic Pipe Services to grout the pipe.
Okay, on the motion.
I make a motion that we go ahead and authorize the city manager to go ahead and get the work done.
And Mayor, I would like to know, we'll have to take this out of a better place. And that's the only place we have that kind of,
Okay, and this would fit the requirement.
it's an infrastructure project, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we have that clarification. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any other discussion?
I have a question for the city manager. Wait, two questions. Just to confirm, the mayor, you said yes to the mayor that this will solve the problem
Yes.
of the washout. And then, we had the budget workshop on the Better Place Plan funds. So the totals that you showed us at the time, they would have to be adjusted, like whatever we had in the bank, this would reduce it by 23,000 something.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any further discussion? Do we have any public comment on this? Seeing no public comment. We have a motion and a second. Karen, will you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Mayor, the next item is bringing back to you to reschedule the commission's goals and objectives workshop. Is scheduled for June 21st, it was canceled. And we have a calendar in your packet, pick a day to reschedule that workshop.
Okay, commissioners, do you have, any dates that you're looking at for this? Charles, are you looking at any dates for this?
I did not.
July is pretty much, I'm gonna say July is, it's done, that's done.
But, Mayor, I met with the city manager and, talked to him about possibly scheduling another budget workshop prior
to the meeting on Monday the 7th, August the 7th. And, you know, because our budget workshop on the general fund is very general, it's possible we could combine with that day or on Monday, August 7th, or, I understand, the problem, we can't have our regular rescheduled commission meeting on Tuesday the 8th because, Bobby Pickens is not able to be there on Tuesday the 8th. But would it be acceptable to have a workshop on goals and objectives without our city attorney there?
I'm sorry, did you say you weren't having a commission meeting because Mr.
Okay, what's happening is the week of the 7th, our commission meeting normally would be on Thursday the 10th, but that conflicts with the League of Cities. So we didn't move the commission meeting back to Tuesday the 8th because I believe that is when Bobby is with another city.
And I'm with another town.
Right, and so we're having our regular commission meeting on Monday the 7th, but is it acceptable to have a workshop to discuss commission goals and objectives for the year without our city attorney present? In other words, do we have the option of using Monday the 8th, or do you prefer we don't do that?
I think that's entirely up to the commission. If you think it's beneficial, we will try to have one of our attorneys here.
You're talking about what, August 7th?
7th, we would have to meet before the regular commission meeting on the 8th. You know, we could meet anytime during the day. It's a workshop. It wouldn't, probably not going to take a lot of time, and it depends on whether Charles has that day, obviously.
Yeah, I do. The afternoon, like Tuesday afternoon, you're talking about?
Yes.
I don't, yeah, but I have to, it would have to be over before evening.
Mayor, I didn't hear that.
Or evening on the 8th,
2 to 6 or something?
not even 6 o'clock, I'd have to be out here at 5. So,
I would hope we could do a workshop like that in at least a couple hours.
Yeah, that the 8th open for me.
It'd be over.
So 2 o'clock on the 8th for goals and objectives?
Right, or, obviously,
Budget?
the other option would be, to combine it, or just to have a workshop before the regular commission meeting, on Monday the 6th, but that's, to me, those are 2 days that look like we're probably all here. So, and I don't really have a preference.
okay, so you want to make a motion for the 8th at 2 o'clock?
Sure, I move that we have commission goals and objectives workshop on, Tuesday the 8th at 2 p.m.
Is that good with everyone?
Yeah, I can give it a couple hours.
Yeah, I can do
You second it, you want a second?
it. I second
All in favor, say aye.
it.
Aye.
So
So we got that took care of.
Yeah. Mayor, the next item is appointing at the Florida League of Cities Conference, normally the mayor is a voting representative. As the mayor not attending, need to appoint a voting representative for that conference.
When does this vote take place?
Is it the annual meeting or dinner?
Is it- Well, it's usually, actually, I didn't have time to look that up today. Usually we appoint the Commissioner Banks, who's the vice mayor, if he's going to be there for the voting meeting. Commissioner Banks, you've done that before, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
are you going to?
Are you willing to do it again?
Yeah, I believe if I'm there, cause I'm not gonna check in the Thursday.
It won't be until,
I'm gonna say I have no idea what it is,
Friday,
so.
Friday.
I honestly don't know.
It's at the end. when-
Right.
Yeah.
I think it ends on Saturday, yes. Will you stay that long?
I'm 2 days.
You're 2 days.
Yeah, I won't be down there Thursday, Friday.
So are you gonna be there on Saturday? I won't be there.
I'm gonna be on my way back.
So then we can defer that to Commissioner DeVito, but
Yeah.
If you're okay with
make
that.
a motion.
Okay.
We'll make a motion.
You'll be willing to do it?
I'm willing to do it.
So, so if I can get a motion
I move in, Commission.
I'll second it.
as voting authority for the commission at the Quarterly of the Cities, is that right, Commissioner Burton?
Yes.
I have a second from Commissioner Burton?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Mayor, the next item is a optional addendum to the scope of services for the land development code update. There's been a lot of conversation about seeing an analysis, detailed analysis of our current code and changes, and having that graphically illustrated was not part of the scope. What the scope included was a diagnostic review, which they did. I provided it to you. They talk about your code is missing these things. They did it chapter by chapter, and they used that as sort of their marching orders to amend the code and bring those chapters to you, 2 and 3 at a time. This would have us then create a PowerPoint presentation for a detailed, this item used to be in chapter 2, and now it's over here in chapter 6. And these are all brand new items, and these items and the old have been eliminated. And the cost of that is $8,500 because it's an extensive analysis.
In addition to
the $20,000.
Okay.
So now, this was Commissioner DeVito?
No,
Requested this?
this is not my request. I'm not sure why my name is listed in here.
Because you've asked for, I mean, you've asked for that analysis, I think, several times.
That's not what I've been asking for.
Okay, then what have you been asking for? What are you looking for?
I have said, since about the very first workshop we had on the land development code, my concerns are that when they give us a chapter, it's just a chapter. There's no explanation of what this particular chapter does, what's new, why it's new. We were told, and I'm looking at the scope of services, we were told that our code was deficient in certain ways. I think it would be helpful when they present us with a chapter to give us some kind of roadmap for each workshop so that the planning and zoning board has and that we have. I think the way we're doing this is just problematic.
One thing's up to you all, is you could go back to your analysis, the diagnostic review for that, shows that chapter, what problems they found with that chapter. I can instruct Lupita, beginning of her presentation, say, tonight's chapter 8, you look in the diagnostic review, we talked about 8 was missing these things, and some items we felt should be more appropriate in another part of the code, and then she could go through that chapter if that would help you.
Yeah,
Is planning and zoning asked for a side-by-side comparison?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, Mayor, it's not just a side-by-side comparison. It's my understanding that planning and zoning has quite a few questions and that we don't always get the questions that they had. We get some of them, but not all of them.
In order to get her answers, what you're suggesting is we need to do this.
I'm not necessarily recommending, if you need that kind of detail.
I don't happen to need that kind of detail. However,
I would say.
so for 8,500, we could get that kind of detail.
Correct.
And make everybody
Get that
happy.
analysis.
Is that it?
If you want that kind of analysis, we can do that, but we have to pay for it.
Well, Mayor, I don't think I've asked for a detailed analysis, that, like something that municipal code would do. My concern is about the way we're doing the way we're doing these chapters of the land development code. I mean, actually, it was never, number one, I don't see in the scope of services, I don't see any description of what we're actually doing, which is taking it chapter by chapter and reviewing it. I'm having trouble truing up what's described in the scope of services, how we're actually doing it. And I don't think we're making very fast progress. As you know, we didn't finish the accessory structures. And I think our progress would go faster if they give us a summary of what we're talking about in each chapter. And the great concern is, at some point, we're gonna have a workshop for the public, and I think the public is going to want something more explanatory than several hundred pages of new code. I don't see how we're gonna get this done if we don't get some synopses of what each of these chapters are about. So no, I didn't ask for what is described here, and I'm not asking us to spend $8,500 at this point.
And I believe the way that we're doing this is he's doing this for the convenience of us, so that we're not having to take it on all at one time, we're taking them on a bite at a time.
Well, be honest though,
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
workshops,
Yeah.
they were gonna come back with one workshop,
One workshop.
you spend a day going through the thing.
I mean, basically isn't planning and zoning going through these and highlighting what they feel should be changed or whatever? Isn't that the way that we're supposed to be kind of doing this?
So it's getting 2 reviews
So
essentially.
now we have a commission then that's getting a little too detailed.
Well, it's getting 2 reviews, and then it'll be a 3rd review, when it's all done, we've compiled, we'll bring it all back as a code. And if you wanna take that out over several months of public workshops, comment, we can do that. First step is to go through the changes based on the diagnostic reviews, this one needs to change in your code. And then bringing us, here's what that looks like. Right. Looking it over, I like this language, I like this, make these changes. We'll compile that into a new code, we'll bring it to you.
That's what we're doing now, correct?
We're in that step now, month by month. We're nearly complete. There's about 3.5 chapters to go. And then we'll bring you back the whole document, and you can, if you wanted her to step through it again, we can do that month after month, as long as we need to before we adopt. We're not on a deadline to adopt this. But we.
Okay, so what I need right now is, we need to make a decision, so if somebody wants to make a motion that we expend this additional $8,500, I'll need a motion. If not, I'll need a motion.
To make a motion, we do not spend the money.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Commissioner
Yes.
Zito.
Charles suggested that we get the planning firm to give us their diagnostic review. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, you have it, we've given it to you. I'm gonna try to get her insider notes.
Yes, I think the supplemental notes would be very helpful.
I'll see what I can do, it's a lot of internet stuff, but
Do we have any public input on this? No public input, okay, at this time, we have a motion and a second. Karen, would you do a roll call on this, please?
Commissioner Burton?
I just want to make sure it's 2:30. But, aye. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Commissioner Case?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Any Myers?
Aye. Okay.
thank you. The next item is the first reading of ordinance 2023-08, establishing chapter 4, article 3, chickens in the code of ordinance. This is an item we've talked about for a few months. There seems to be a desire to allow the keeping of hens in the city. The ordinance you directed me to copy was made with a very good ordinance. They vetted it for months and months, and they had a lot of concern for the aesthetics in the community. And they had a commissioner who had chickens and wanted to keep chickens in the city. So a couple of decision points I would point you to. It does limit the number of permits. You may not want to do that. They limited theirs to 50. They probably have 3 or 4 permits. You may not want to limit, it also limits the number of chickens to 4. That's an item you may want to consider. And then there's also a fee of $50. You may want to waive the fee or have some other fee. So those are sort of the thing. We did allow for, in keeping of chickens in SR1, 1A, 3 and 4, which are not zoning districts yet, but are contemplated in the new code. Does not allow chickens where you have multifamily townhome, duplex, condominium, and so forth. So we don't have neighbors who don't want chickens and end up with chickens. So staff recommends approval of this ordinance. Make those decisions about the number of permits, the number of chickens, and the fee or no fee, or what the fee would be, and approve it on first reading.
Okay, I need a motion to accept before we enroll.
I move for the approval of ordinance 2023-08.
Okay, do I have a second?
With any changes?
Well, we're gonna discuss,
Okay.
we can discuss that, we have to have a discussion. Do we have a second? Yes, sir.
You could also do, one thing the city of Maitland did was they tried it for a year. So they adopted it and they would revisit it to see if everything worked out all right, and then they would renew it. We just continue unless they object.
Since we start talking about them, eggs done drop down.
Okay, so we have a motion, I don't have a second yet, do I have a second, then we can discuss it, make any changes to it.
Well, I'm not willing to second it yet, but I'll tell you,
You have a second to discuss it?
well, we've discussed other things without a second, so I would beg the indulgence of the
So right
commission to tell you
now-
what my concern is, or I'm not going to second.
So right now, we've got, we don't have a second, and we've got a motion that fails. George, can we still continue can we discuss it outside of that?
If the commission so desires,
Okay.
you're in public forum, feel free to discuss.
The commission wants to discuss it.
So I'd just like to share the primary concern I have with this. I mean, I like chickens. We currently allow chickens. I think, we have the current ordinance in here. I think you can have chickens, what, if it's 250 feet from any dwelling?
From adverse,
Right.
yeah, somebody can have
Okay,
chicken.
so looking at this ordinance the second and third and fourth and fifth time, I noticed that basically, this allows you to place your coop and pen, which can be 8 feet high, 7.5 feet from any property line. That's typically where people put their sheds and outbuildings. And so what that means is if, one neighbor, well, for example, there's a gentleman sitting right out here in the audience who has a lot and he has a patio. So if his neighbor wants an 8-foot chicken coop, which is higher than his 6-foot privacy fence, they can put it 7.5 feet from the privacy fence, which is, this is what people do with their outbuildings. They put it so it's out of the line of sight of their house, but it's right by your neighbor's patio or swimming pool or where they like to sit out. And it might not be 7.5 feet from their home, but it's still 7.5 feet from where they enjoy whatever it is they're doing on their patio or in their yard. And I think this would be more agreeable, if you have to keep your chicken coop 25 feet from any property line, not just the setbacks, to give neighbors a little, I don't think any neighbor wants to be 7.5 feet from somebody else's chicken coop. If you really want chickens, you can have them closer to your own home and not stick them over on the property line by your neighbor's home.
So we have some options here. I had some concern about it being 7.5 feet high. Does it really need to be 7.5 feet high?
That's tall.
That's tall. Yeah, that is tall. I had some concerns with this, that rather than chicken, that we replace chicken throughout and say hen, because then there's no question. Some people see a chicken as a rooster or a hen, and they consider them both, so it would be my recommendation that if we have a motion and later on, if we amend this, that you would have hen instead of chicken. And I understand what you're saying, I mean, so that's something else that, I mean, that's a recommendation you can also do, that either our code enforcement or our city manager, that when they get their permit, that they have to give kind of, I guess, a sketch of where they're actually going to place this. I mean, there's things you can do in here to make this,
How many people have actually requested a permit?
well, they don't have a permit, so there's no permit to be requested.
But I mean, they know this is coming, do we have any idea how many people actually want to do this?
Mayor, as I understand it, the person who brought this idea up actually has enough room on their property to have it without any change in the ordinance. So the one person that I know of who requested it can go ahead and have chickens, as far as I know. Or hens, rather.
Hens. Hens only. So, I mean, that's just some recommendations. Do we have any other discussion? I can open it up for public comment to see what the public has to say.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got a George Miller. George, if you you've got on here that for this ordinance, 0809, which kind of work with one another.
Yes, I was here this afternoon, and the city clerk, after a lot of effort on her part, my question was, what is the existing ordinance? And she found the 4.11, which doesn't allow any fowl. Chicken is fowl. And I think by proceeding with the ordinance to allow chickens, and I had the same question, how many people have actually requested to have chickens? I mean, most people go to the grocery store, eggs got kind of expensive, but they've come back down. And I don't know too many people that raise chickens. So I think we're getting ready to open a big can of worms here. You know, and I grew up here and people had chickens. I tried to have chickens one time, and we bought them for a nickel a piece for Easter. They were dyed different colors. They were pretty, and we six kids pulled our money together and built a cage. We had plenty of room in the backyard, and we didn't know they were all roosters. And we came home from church one day, and my dad says, well, your mom's boiling some water. We're gonna have fried chicken. We didn't have names, thank goodness, but we plucked chickens, we scalded them, my dad killed them, gutted them and everything else, and mom cooked them up, and I don't think we ate any. We just sat there, us kids, 6 kids sat there and stared at the chickens. That's the last time we brought home pigs. That was the last time, but Dad was pretty cool about it. He said, you know, I gotta get my sleep. And those pullets, they're pullet size. They're trying to crow in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. So he knew how to nip it in the bud. But I really think we're opening a real can of worms. It's not like people are starving. And I get eggs from somebody out in the county. You know, they sell them at Hills. They got 50 hens. But the county only allows 7 hens. But he gives all his neighbors that may complain free eggs, so they don't complain. So, you know, I just think we'll be opening a lot. And I'm more concerned about the feral cats and the feral dogs, you know, and more than anything else. And we seem to have problems with that in that area, you know. So I really don't think it's necessary to have a chicken ordinance. I'm happy with the existing ordinance right now that Karen pointed out to me. It's kind of buried, but, you know, fowl are, you know, undomesticated and they're not allowed currently. And I hope that stands. Thank you.
I only have one thing that I'd like to input here is, I had 4 children. They were in 4-H. You know, we raised chickens back in the 80s and 90s and had the cages outside. And it drew every raccoon, every fox, every wild dog. Before it was over with, they were shredded in the cages. And we really didn't have any animal problems like that before until they smelled the chickens, and I couldn't believe the raccoons that came out of the woodwork to kill the chickens. And we have feral dogs, like you were just saying. My biggest worry is this is gonna be bait to draw in maybe some animals we don't want. That's my only comment.
Do we have any other speakers on this? Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Yes, ma'am, Charles Bim. I'd like to address the Great Chicken Wars of 23. Look, I'm concerned about Present City adopting any ordinance which, from other towns or other cities, when it would seem more viable to, if you've got to have an ordinance on this, customize something that fits the needs of this town. I'm also reminded Thomas Jefferson said the government governs best that governs least. That said, it seems you're gonna create an ordinance, it ought to address several points. There should be no fees, no permits required to have chickens or other livestock on private property. within the city. People going to the trouble to raise food for their table or teach their kids about animal husbandry are trying to save money, not trying to support an increased bureaucracy of the city through further taxation. Also, the ordinance should define domestic animals broadly as the species of animals covered by the ordinance. It should preclude free-range animals, coops, hutches, pens, etc. should be required for the safety of animals and neighbors, etc. And there should be a specific space required. If you're going to go into this, quail require less space than rabbits, which require less space than chickens, etc., etc. The minimum space for the particular animal should be outlined. The ordinance should clearly state that without there being a nuisance and a complaint, there is no violation. Fines should be reasonable and only imposed after warning. Repeat offenses could result in the removal of the animals or the ejection of the animals through the ordinance. Nothing in the ordinance should limit any right of a property owner or a property manager to preclude animals on that particular property. You don't want to open this up where a renter comes in and says, oh, well, the ordinance says I can have chickens, but the landlord or the manager for the landlord loses their rights to say, no, we don't have animals on this particular property. And also, I would strongly suggest some sort of a sunset provision where whatever you put out there, you go ahead and review in 6 months or a year or something of that nature to see how effective it is and to leave the door open to tweak it as necessary. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Yes, Commissioner.
If I remember correctly, a month ago, our last meeting, commission meeting, it seems like I'm the one that said, hey, bring back something from Nathan or, use that as a guide. But I remember a lot of people, especially in the audience, that seemed to really want chickens. And at the time, I think eggs were maybe $3 a dozen or whatever, I don't really know. But, they're $1 a dozen, $1.25 a dozen right now. There's big sales now on chicken, so you can buy chicken pretty cheap, whole chickens real cheap. And so it seems like the mood has changed. I think people realize that raising chickens is actually a pretty expensive thing to do. And I'm getting a totally different feeling as to where people are kind of coming from tonight. So I think I made a motion. I just want to.
Okay.
There's about 50 seconds left. Could I address that before you move forward?
Sure.
You
got 50 seconds.
Working. Political moves change, and all too often the law ends up chasing technology and chasing changes in circumstance. If you're going to do something like this, you have a chance to get ahead of circumstance and the realization that economies do not stay the same. This month, cost of eggs and cost of chickens is down. Great. Happens when a barrel of oil goes up to $100 per barrel, and everything that moves, including all our food, also shows increases in price. People show much more interest at that point in being self-reliant and being able to go with a cheaper option if they can raise chickens or rabbits, whatever. The beauty of some animals like chickens or rabbits, you can feed them whatever you find out there. You don't not need to use a particular food. And so all I'm saying is that you may see a change in the political winds at this particular moment because the price of eggs is $1.58 a dozen. But what happens when they're $3 or $4 a dozen? What happens when you have to look for alternatives for meat because beef is $10 a 5 pound or $10 a pound? You cannot create an ordinance for this city based upon today's views. You've got to take the long view on this, over the horizon view, if you're going to do it at all. And again, I would suggest that you keep it as general as possible and revisit this within 6 months to a year. Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers on this?
I would like to address this.
Okay, if you would come forward, please. State your name and your address, if you will.
I'm gonna put this issue to bed.
My name is Jane Ellen Creedy. I reside at 828 Orange Avenue. And I really believe you brought up a good point. And that is that to be self-reliant, like going out and doing a garden in your backyard, and so you have really fresh food. Our food chain has been extremely compromised. And so for people that are asking to do a chicken coop in their backyard, sometimes aren't asking for to have a $1.25, whatever the price happens to be. They're looking for something fresh to put into, because they're conscious of their body and what they put in their body. And I think that the people that I know that are wanting to put a chicken coop here in town are those kinds of people. I happen to be one of those kinds of people. I wish I had the energy to put a garden in my backyard. And I wish I had the energy to put a coop in my backyard. But I'm like you, I go into other people that, that come to our church and they give us fresh vegetables and they have their own chicken coops. But I'm not gonna constantly rely on people from Pomona Park. Why can't I rely on where I live? I live here in Crescent City. And I think it's really important that the logistics as to where you locate that chicken coop is probably foremost in front. And it has to be the concern that the city should have. And she should not include a rooster that's gonna wake everybody up at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. But I know that a lawnmower does, and we don't have an ordinance for that. And a leaf blower wakes me up early in the morning when I'm doing my devotional, and nobody has an ordinance for that. So these are my concerns. I wish that you would look at this a little bit closer. I think there already has been chickens in Crescent City. There has been people that have them in their backyards, and you probably don't even know about it. I've seen it here, and I know people that own them here in town. So just a consideration. Just look at it again, but that's why I think that people are getting more and more concerned every single day. Because as of COVID, there's a time when we are looking at maybe our food chain is gonna start to collapse. And we have to be self-reliant. So what's gonna happen when that happens if you have that on the books? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, we had a motion for this that failed for lack of a second. We can defer this to the next meeting if you would want, if we have anybody else in the community that might want to speak to this, or we can lay it to rest at this time. So I'm gonna give you the option for the needs of action.
Well, we don't have many people here, so let's bring it back. Ain't no hurry to bring it back. And maybe the next time, bring it back, somebody can speak to it.
Do you want to, can I get a motion to defer it to the next meeting?
Yeah, I make a motion that we refer to the next actually meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'm confused. I thought Commissioner Burton said she wanted to withdraw the motion.
He's saying,
Her motion failed.
yeah, my motion failed.
Her motion failed for lack of a second.
Right, and I thought then she said she just wanted to withdraw it, but you didn't say that.
Well, I did, but
She realized
I
that
guess
her
it
motion
wasn't.
failed. She realized that her motion failed. So we currently have a motion. Do we have a proper second? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second. So this issue is,
The chicken is gone.
We have a motion to deny.
we have a motion. You want a motion to deny, so then we'll have to have a motion to deny. Can I get a motion to deny?
There are no chickens here.
I think it's just, I
That's a question.
don't know what he's asking. Does anybody want to do that? And if nobody wants to do that, then at this time, this fails. Okay, then we've also got, if you go to ordinance 2023-09, which is
It's related to ordinance.
a related ordinance.
We didn't table the first one, so we should leave this one.
So we'll abandon this one, is that correct? Okay.
Next time, I'm recommending tabling, because when we moved it up, the resolution 2305, we decided not to do the resolution. So I'm gonna just take no action or table.
The resolution on 2023-05.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to formally table it or just no action.
Well, we took it up, we didn't take up a resolution, we took up an action.
That's true, you made a motion, we passed it. Okay, we'll move on to resolution 2306, which is setting the maximum millage. This is where you set a millage, but you cannot exceed it, but you can lower it in the future. We've done historically, you just set the existing millage rate. I always recommend a little bit higher. I don't anticipate it will go higher, so you could set the current rate, but you could not raise it. You could still lower it during the adoption process, but you couldn't really
Why have it?
by law, by statute, 420, we have to adopt it, not to exceed tentative millage rate, essentially.
Okay. I'm going to, based on you, I'm gonna make a recommendation that when we do this motion, that, based on our current climate, that we, not round it up. That would be a recommendation, but if anybody wants to make a motion.
Well, actually, Mayor, what I was gonna say is the packet's confusing because the actual resolution, seems to have our current millage rate.
It does.
Which is 8.5914. And are we confirmed that that is our current millage rate?
Yes.
That is.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we set our maximum millage, for the DR 420 certification, to remain the same at 8.5914.
I'll second. Okay, we have a motion and a second from Commissioner Burton. Okay, do we have any further discussion on this? Do we have any public comment on this? Open it up for public comment, seeing no public comment. Okay, commissioners, Karen, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Minnis?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Mayor, the next item is resolution 2307, adopting investment and budgeting policies. This is the packet of policies I gave you referring to our investments in budgeting and finance process. It's a lot of material. If you desire us to workshop it, we can do that, but our workshop schedule is pretty tight.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-07, adopting investment and budgeting policies.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion on this?
Mayor, I have some concerns about this. I've been kind of out of commission for the past month. Didn't get the opportunity to meet with our new finance director, but there's a couple of things in here that concern me. One of them is, I don't know, we talked about, one is there's a lot of material in here and I'm not 100% sure that we understand it all. And I'm not 100% sure that we're ready to do this. For example, the commission has previously set, we've agreed that we'll keep $1 million in reserve. This policy seems to say that we would keep 3 months operating dollars in reserve. And it doesn't, there's no memo here that says what 3 months operating dollars are, but I think they're a little bit less than $1 million, given what our whole general fund budget is. As well, the authorized investments, I know the finance director made what seems like a very sound recommendation, that we take some of our reserve money and put it in, an interest-bearing account. This policy authorizes the city manager or the director of finance or approved outside investment manager to purchase or sell investment securities. And it lists, some very safe, securities. But currently, this just seems a little out of step with our level of assets. We don't have that many assets. It takes two people, it takes the city manager or two city commissioners to sign a check. I would rather see us just have a proposal to make a specific investment that we would authorize for that specific investment. I'm very uncomfortable giving a general authority to the city manager or finance director just to purchase or sell investment securities. I would rather us authorize a specific purchase.
And that was part of the discussion at the last meeting when we.
Right, but
it was out to us.
Right, so, I don't see a change in this. I'm just thinking this, I think these are good guidelines. I just don't see that we're ready to adopt them as a resolution. Because there's quite a bit in here and great guidelines. I have no problem with the finance director using those guidelines. But some of them, seem just a little more or a little inappropriate for us. And those two I mentioned.
So do you have a recommendation? I mean, we have a motion and a second, but do you have a recommendation that you would like to see that would?
Well, personally, I would like to see us all get to be a lot more familiar with this, and maybe the finance director, a little more familiar with our city. I just don't see the need to adopt such a sweeping policy right now.
Commissioners, do we have any other discussion on this? Any comments?
Change is hard. But if we have money just sitting there and it's really not, gaining more money on it, or any interest on it, and we are able to put it in some safe investments where we're not talking major money here, I don't believe. And we're not talking like we're gonna be making millions. It sounds to me like even if we could make $30,000, that would be enough to pay me my, money for my recall. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think that, I think the city needs to move forward, and most cities do have an investment fund, which really kind of help pay the bills. And, yeah, we want to keep $1 million. I think that $1 million will always be there. It's just that certain amount coming out, it's still there. It's just gaining interest or money or whatever it is.
Those are two separate issues. What this would do is, this policy, the reserve has nothing to do with the investments. The investments, you could actually invest your $1 million reserve. We discussed that last time.
If you wanted to.
Yes, we could, because I'm sorry, I'm speaking.
Well, she was, go ahead, finish.
Okay, so it's two separate issues. What this policy would do, the way it's written, and there's a lot more in here, I've read it in detail, this policy would change our prior decision to keep $1 million in reserve.
Doesn't it just set a minimum reserve?
Yes, but this.
Minimum of 3 months?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's the whole thing, but.
Okay, then our policy, right, that's.
And what she said earlier is that she doesn't know what 3 months minimum reserve would be.
Okay, my point is, we set a policy of $1 million. I don't really see, so this in a way is contradictory as well. So a separate issue is the investment authorization. We can still invest our reserve funds. I think we can do it by, just like anything that we purchase, the city manager and the finance director can go and find a place where they wish to invest our money, and we can approve that specific investment.
Gonna add that language, just saying that that's their.
There's way more in this. I am not comfortable with adopting this entire policy. I agree that I think we should put our money to work. What I would prefer is that we have the finance director and the city manager bring us a specific place where they want to invest this money. And then, just like every other approval that we give, bring it to us and we will approve it. And then we can make the money. But I think this is way too much for us to adopt right now. It has some good guidance and it also is a little bit restrictive on some other things. But I particularly, I think it might even conflict with our charter to just give the city manager and finance director investment authority. That means they could change whatever, I think we should give specific approval for what investments our city makes.
Okay, I'm gonna open, yes, sir.
I see what Commissioner Brito is saying, she's so right. It should, now it's good that the city manager and the finance director come up with a solution, but they should bring it back to the commission and let us do the approving of it. I think that's what I get out of it. And I think that is the appropriate way to do it.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not ratify 2307 and that we have the finance officer to the mayor.
We have a motion and a second on the table right now. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear that motion. What was it?
Commissioner Burton made a motion to accept it. Commissioner Banks seconded that. So if you want to hold your motion to see what happens.
Yeah,
with this
I just heard Commissioner Banks that he.
There was a proper motion.
That was a second to a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have, any public comment at this time? Yes, sir. Who wants to speak? In regards to this resolution? Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I think the city has to be very, very careful with the climate. You know, it's been bank failures in Silicon Valley for all the billionaires, and some of them almost lost their money. I know some big corporations that almost lost their money. But the government came in at the last moment and made them whole. But, the city has to be very, very careful with their reserve cash funds. And, a mode that we used for many, many years, and we were $500 million company, we would invest our excess cash overnight and gain a lot of interest. And there's a procedure to that, which I'm sure you're aware of, Dale. And that's a very, very safe way to get a return and still have access to your cash in case of an emergency. But there's going to continue to be bank failures. And you have to be very, very careful. And I think Mr. Ben here a couple months ago pointed out that FDIC only insures up to $250,000. So you have to be very, very careful. You have all your eggs in one basket, you might wind up with your pockets turned inside out one morning. And that would not be good for the citizens at all. So you have to be very, very cautious. And I'm sure you'll have some good guidance, you know, on how to safely get a return on the cash the city has in reserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale, and Charles, it's my understanding, and I know it was stated earlier, that just for comfort for the room, we have been assured that our money is protected. Our money is currently protected, okay. Yes, sir.
Greetings, folks. Charles Bell. Look, I'm no financial wizard, but the chief financial officer and the city manager are not elected officials. You are. It's your responsibility where this money goes. It's your responsibility where this money is invested and how it's invested. right? You can get recommendations from your staff, your city manager, your chief financial officer. But the people of this city elected you to oversee the investments of their money. And abdicating that in any way, shape, or form would seem to be a dereliction of duty. They're not elected. You are. Do your job.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak to this? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Commissioners, we have a motion on the table and we have a second, the acceptance. Karen, I'm going to have you do roll call, please.
Commissioner Burton? Aye. Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Nay.
Commissioner DeVito?
Nay.
Mayor Myers?
I'm going to vote nay on this, and the reason being is that I feel like maybe after we get through this budget cycle, I would really like for this to be brought back. I think Dale's put a great deal of work into this. It's something that we absolutely have got to have as we continue to try to get hold of a hold on our finance department that has for many years not had a hold on it. And so it's very important that we have policies in place. So, but I just feel like right now, and possibly Charles, so that everybody can better understand this, there's a lot of back and forth as far as what we think we're interpreting here. So maybe we could even, I know as much as we hate having a workshop, I don't think a workshop on this would take very long. Possibly even before a commission meeting, we could have a workshop. That would be my recommendation.
You guys have had it for a couple of months, and it's not enough, so I recommend a workshop.
Okay.
Well, my understanding would be, voted on wasn't saying that we were just gonna kick it to the curb. We just said that I think the commission need to do their approval of whatever they come up with.
Well, the motion was to accept this as it's currently written.
No, I don't
Okay.
think that's what I meant for the motion.
Well, that's what it was, that the motion was as it was currently written. So if somebody, so right now it's failed. So if we have another motion, if somebody wants to entertain another motion on this, I'll entertain another motion. If not, then move forward. Okay.
I think you summed it up very well about how we need to proceed. Thank you.
Mayor, the next item, resolution 2308, we ask you to table that. Do more research, we're unlikely to switch to FRS. I request to table this item.
So do I have a motion to table this? Do you want to table it until, do you think you'll be ready in August? Or is there a date certain you'd like to table this to? Do you want to table it to fall? Where do you want to table it to?
Is there a point in making a date certain?
Well, I think the word is out.
August is fine.
Okay, so if we can get a motion to table this until the August meeting?
Yeah, I move that we table resolution 2023-08 regarding change of the city's retirement program, until the August, meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mayor, the next item, resolution 2023-09, our traffic light maintenance and compensation agreement with DOT. This is a 3-year agreement. Every 3 years we renew this. It's a slight increase in the amount of revenue we receive for the signals in the city. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Second.
I move we approve resolution 2023-09, the traffic light maintenance and compensation agreement.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Yes, Commissioner DeVito?
Just have one question. So, Charles, do I understand from you that essentially this is a renewal?
Yes.
Okay.
Ongoing agreement.
Okay, and it says, actually it says You're authorized to execute amendments for the current agreement and all future amendments until the end of the agreement term.
Yeah, basically, we respond to them when they, reach, let us know it's coming to an end, basically they pay us to do the work, so it works out for us.
Okay, but I mean, are you, this is an update to the current agreement. You're not proposing that you would be, agreeing to amendments on your own during the 3-year term?
Bring anything back to you yet.
Okay.
And this has to come to us every 3 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any, public comment? Seeing none, I'm gonna close public comment. Eric, will you call roll, please?
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton. Aye. And Myers.
Aye. So moved. Okay, with that, I'm going to suspend our current commission meeting and open up our CRA.
Yeah.
Mayor, I think we need to thank our presenter for staying for so long. Thank you.
Mary, thank you so much for your patience. We apologize that you had to sit through the, somebody got to though.
It's very entertaining.
It's just the way it works. Somebody has to sit.
So good evening. My name is Mary Robbins, 508 North Lake Street, and I'm the president of the Downtown Partnership. And I'm here to update you on the Main Street project. And before I do, we're going to do a little background, if you will. So back in around October 2021, Charles Rudd gave a town hall presentation at the school auditorium to introduce the Main Street concept. And it was very intriguing to a lot of us in the room because at that point in time, our downtown was stagnant, a little dingy, run down, lots of opportunity, but we didn't know quite how to go about it. How do we affect change, positive change? And the Main Street concept seemed like a vehicle and a way to get there. And so some of us attended the meetings. These were weekly meetings, learning a little bit more about Main Street. And in January 2022, our director, Christina Hyde, was hired, and standing committees were formed. Long about that time, our board was formed, and our chairs were elected out of our committees. And it was our idea that if we someday want to be a Main Street, we need to act like a Main Street, and we need to form up like a Main Street and start studying the procedures and the policies, and thus we did. And during that time, we created bylaws, policies, procedures, and then in June, we received our 501c3 status. And soon after that, we began working on the real work plan for the 2022-2023 year, along with the budget. And then somewhere in about October, we made a presentation to Tallahassee, and in November, we were accepted to the Main Street program. What is our mission? The Crescent City Downtown Partnership is a Florida Main Street community committed to revitalizing and enhancing the character, beauty,
and economic vitality of the historic downtown Crescent City. And if you're not familiar at this point with Main Street, it's a program out of the National Trust for Historical Preservation. And it's a 40-year program with over 2,000 communities throughout the United States. And Main Street has a strategy, and a very successful strategy, and it's called the 4-point approach: economic vitality, design, organization, and promotions. And very, very briefly, economic vitality helps existing businesses while recruiting new businesses to our downtown. Design improves and enhances the streetscape. So street signs, banners, storefronts, plantings, that kind of thing fall under the design committee. Organization keeps the organization afloat, keeps it going, and has everybody working towards the same goal. Promotions is about conducting events to bring people downtown, to get folks downtown, so that they see what's going on, they see the businesses that are there, and they want to be downtown. We want it to be the focal point of our community. So let's take a look at some of the things that we've accomplished in this short time. Economic vitality. In August 2022, we held our first downtown mingle, and that was to bring all of the downtown business owners and managers together in one place and talk about things that interested us, meet each other, get to know each other. This was a very successful meeting, and we plan to have one in this upcoming fall season. In the fall and in the spring of this year, we conducted 2 workshops together with the Small Business Development Council. And that's aimed at existing businesses and people who may want to open a new business. And it answers questions for them and gives them direction. These have been very well attended and very successful. As a matter of fact, several attendants at these have asked for private meetings with the council to further these discussions. Something that was done for the application process for Main Street was inventorying all of our downtown properties. And this is very helpful as it assists potential new businesses in locating the right property. We can help them, directing them. The inventory consists of the size of the building, the square footage, the location, all those things. Design. When we first started working with design, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit. This wasn't critical thinking here. We could look at downtown and there was a multitude of things that could have been done. One of the things that we saw immediately was we had 30 streetlights that were looking kind of old and dingy. And so we got some estimates, contacted some people, and they gave us estimates as high as $8,000, $9,000. And we thought, well, we certainly don't have that money, so let's go ahead and do this ourselves. And so all that summer, you saw the partnership volunteers out on the street, and thanks to the city for your help, and thanks for the use of your equipment. But we get out there and we pressure washed 30 streetlights, we sanded them, primed them, and painted them. This project had a little mission creep, because then we saw the sidewalks needed to be done, and we did that, and then there's 9 benches, and we did those, and we painted those, and then we did the pads underneath those benches. But that brought us to our second big project last year, which was the painting of the murals underneath the benches. We asked for permission from this commission and was granted that, and we did a call to artists, And they did a fantastic job in painting those. We're getting ready to reseal those. There's a little bit of wear on one of them, I noticed, so we're protecting those art pieces. Organization is, it's been a very busy committee this year, just trying to bring everything together, trying to pull all the tools together to operate. In the fall last year, we brought in $3,500 in a fundraising campaign. We launched a monthly newsletter. We continue to grow our volunteer roster. This is a struggle with all Main Streets, and it was slow for us, but we think we saw a turn probably in the spring of this year. We had as many as 25 people on our roster for June when we added up the volunteer hours. So a lot more people are coming out and helping us, and that's a real plus for us. It's no longer just 5 people trying to do it all. Our first quarter volunteers contributed 620 volunteer hours, and that's an estimate by Main Street of over $19,000. We're very anxious to launch a website. We've just received approval from Florida Main Street. There's a small amount of money that we get for our first year that goes towards training and technical assistance. And we asked about the purchase of a website and getting started on that, and they've agreed to using some of that money for that. So we're waiting for a proposal from a company, and once we get that, then we're going to get started on that. Hope to have the website done by the end of the year. What's not on this slide, but I do want to mention because it's very important, is training. A lot of training goes on, and it's involved with the Main Street process. There's annual conferences, there's quarterly conferences, there's probably weekly conferences, there's webinars, and there's a lot of time that's invested in those conferences, certainly for Christina and the executive committee. Last year, the executive committee attended the Preservation on Main Street seminar in DeLand, and this year we're all registered. As a matter of fact, there's 7 of us registered for the Palms conference it's in Ocala this year, and it's this upcoming week. Promotions is our busiest committee. It has a lot of very talented, very creative, and very enthusiastic individuals on this committee. As you know, we do the monthly markets on the Miller property. We've taken a little break this summer because of the heat, and it's very hard on our vendors. But we'll be starting back up in September with that market. The market pulls in, we average probably 40 to 45 vendors every single market, and we do a head count every hour, and we get, by the 11 to 1 o'clock hours, we have upwards over 100 people at the market. So they're very popular. We do get involved in conversations with people and asking them where they're from, and surprisingly, a lot of people, it's not just Crescent City, there's a lot of people coming in from as far away as DeLand, Ormond Beach. They're coming in for this, so that's very exciting. As you know, we do, seasonally, we do movies in the park, and probably we'll be doing some later this year. We hosted the very first Dia de los Muertos Festival and Cinco Festival. These were very well attended, and the Mexican consulate from Orlando came up for both of those events, and were very complimentary and very appreciative that we were doing this for the community. Back in February, we did an art stroll on Central to reveal those murals that had been painted by the artists, and it was a very different type of vibe that we did, and a lot of different music. up and down Central Avenue, and that was very, very successful. And we hope to do more art reveals, more art strolls as we progress in our improvements. Something I want to point out is we believe in keeping it local. We support our downtown businesses, and there's a lot of things that we do to help them. The computer we purchased for the partnership was purchased from Bryson's Computers right here in our downtown area. Sassy Cassie's has supplied us with box lunches for our board meetings and for our board training. Our first downtown mingle was done at the Mystic Bistro. All wine, beer, and spirits for our Day of the Dead festival were purchased from Parker House. For our art stroll, all wine was purchased from Mystic Bistro, and all the beer from Three Bananas. And it was important to us because we wanted to use the Persimmon Hollow Crescent City labeled beer that they serve down there. And we even went so far as to make certain we had the tap so that we could tell people about that. And if you like this beer, this is where you can get it. Likewise with the wine. At both our Cinco and our Dia de los Muertos festivals, we encouraged our Mexican restaurants to join us and to vendor there. And those that did were very appreciative. They did very well. And they agreed to come back for our next festivals. Just before the art stroll, the partnership helped several businesses with their storefront windows. Some of us who had window display experience helped them out in coming up with some ideas and some designs and actually setting up the windows. And I can go on and on here. You know, all of our printing, all of our signage, even the water we sell at our markets that's all comes from King's Office Supplies. All the supplies and all the paint we used for the street lights, that all came from Ace Hardware. So we keep it local. So what's next for Main Street? Our year ends September 30th. So right now we're in the works. We're getting ready to work on our work plan for 2023, 2024. We'll be working with our board of directors. They'll be approving the work plan. And last, I want to close with, if any of you would like to help, this is when our standing committees meet, and there's our email. If you just want to come out and help us at an event, you can email us, and we'll make certain to get on the volunteer list. I thank you for this opportunity, and does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Actually, just first of all, thank you, because I know you've been a driving force in this. I've been a volunteer for many years, and I know that those volunteer hours are blood, sweat, and tears many times, and things that people are not doing at home. But something that I just want to emphasize for the public, actually, it's my understanding that it's Crescent City itself, with the help of its volunteers, that is designated as the Main Street community. Is that not right, Charles? Don't we?
Crescent City itself.
Well, it was the city, actually, we signed the application, we had to authorize the
Yes.
application
City
to the
Crescent
Department of State.
Is Florida Main Street community.
Right, so the city is the Main Street community, and one of the things that we provide is your executive director is actually paid by the city, correct? It's a part-time position. So the taxpayers have an investment in this. And as well, the city is currently providing office space and the Market Square space, right? So I mean, it really is a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great presentation. I have some concerns and observations. The hour is late, I'll get with you later. The main thing I was very concerned about at the very beginning was when the Main Street application was submitted, which the city commission authorized, a copy was never provided to the commissioners. And actually, well, I'll get to that. I asked for a copy and it had very helpful information. It mentioned the inventory. It highlighted basically our strengths and weaknesses. So I asked that that be circulated to all the commissioners because it was made on our behalf and it has incredibly important data in it that I hope this commission, as the CRA board, will use. And I hope that the Main Street community will really drill down into some of those strengths and weaknesses and use that. So, can't thank you enough. And, just look forward to seeing what you come up with for the next year. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, and I forgot to say, actually, it was, Michelle Myers, before she was the mayor, who made the most recent proposal to the commission before she was elected to be a Main Street community. And during COVID, we had Catherine, I forget her last name, she made a video. So that kind of laid the foundation.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to give that one this time. Thank you.
And I have to say that I'm extremely proud of everything that you have done, all of you. Every time I see you out on the street, every time I see you in the planning and the cleaning, everything that you have done to try to make this happen for our community.
We appreciate it.
And, you know, I know a lot of times as a volunteer, you know, that time goes unnoticed, but I've noticed, I know others have noticed, and the city is noticing because it looks like it is being loved.
Yeah.
And, when you go to other communities, and that's really what prompted all of this, was looking at what other communities have done through the Main Street program.
Right.
And the success that they have had, that is really the foundation on which they've been able to build this. And so for you, Christina, and all of our volunteers to be the pioneers in this in Crescent City, I am just greatly appreciative.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Charles. You want to, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the CRA.
Thank you. A couple items I want.
Resume our regular scheduled meeting.
I did get an update, today on the highway, US 17 lighting from 308 north. They finalized plans and, they're gonna have it in by November. So November is now the target date. So you should begin to see installation over the next few months, of that lighting. I also mentioned that, next week I have my initial meeting with our master planning consultants, our sort of kickoff staff meeting. Meet with them, drive around the community, and then we'll have a date for the next public meeting. We will ask about the middle school. That'll be at the public meeting, is the next step for that as well. So they'll actually moderate that kind of session, and that'll be the next step for us. Hopefully within very short order, we'll have that next public meeting. In your packet, I did do a summary from the Fort League of Cities, the legislative updates. They did a very long webinar, and I tried to condense it down. They did just not all the legislation, but significant ones, and I pulled out. The one that really affects us, I think, the most is going to affect in October. We'll have to actually provide a economic analysis of any ordinances that may impact businesses. And so we're going to get more information on that, kind of how we do that and what that means. That'll be something that anything we pass now or was passed previously is not impacted by that, but anything that's amended or passed after October 1 will then be impacted by that. It allows for people to sue us if they feel they're adversely impacted by an ordinance that we passed.
Actually, businesses. Not people, businesses.
That's right, yeah.
Right, and I think it's called business impact statement.
Yeah, there are some restrictions, things that we can pass that are immune from that, but, so we'll have more detail on that. I also want to mention, I said in our update, in our workshop, that our attorney fees were going up. We've met with them, they're not gonna go up. We will be watching our hours more closely. We've been going over we have a contract for 20 hours a month, and we normally get billed every hour after that. Commission requests have exceeded that in recent months. So going forward, we'll get a bill if we go over our hours, and that will, by default, up the amount we spend, but our contractual amount will remain the same.
How much per hour does it have to be?
$2.50.
It's $2.50 an hour.
$2.50.
It's counted
Hours, what they-
at $2.50 an hour.
And that's something that is, not to interrupt you, but Mr. Young, if you would talk to Bobby about that too, that as we get close, if he would just give us,
Absolutely, what we can do is, we track it in our system, you'll get a detailed itemized list, especially if that occurs.
okay,
But I will talk to him about, again, if we approach the threshold of like 15 hours,
I think 15
I'll
hours
give
would be.
the city manager a warning so that we're just conservative with it. We haven't billed those hours so far in an attempt to try to assist the city in these times, so.
That's what he said, we're appreciative. I know he's working all over those 20 hours.
Another thing I want to mention, we did have a meeting with folks that put on Christmas events. I met with Angel Duke, I spoke with the folks from the Yacht Club. The Yacht Club intends to request their fireworks event again on Saturday night, December 2nd. And Ms. Duke wants to put on her Gospel Fest again on Friday night, December 1st. She would like to do it in Market Square. She requested that we not have competing events and recommended, and I agree, that we would do a light-up event the week before, the Friday after Thanksgiving. Many communities do kind of kick off the holiday season on Black Friday, where we would light up the park, about a 2-hour event, Rudolph and Santa Claus, and turn on the lights, and then, so the lights are on for the season, starting November 24th. December 1st will be Gospel Fest 4 to 9, and either a Market Square, or she may move back to Eagle Line Park as a backup. She doesn't have to bring in lighting if she does it in Eagle Line Park. December 2nd, she has relinquished, asked us to take on a Christmas parade, so I agreed to that. We'll request help from the partnership, the Christmas parade, but we would actually push it later instead of noon, probably 2 o'clock, so Santa could end at the fireworks event, park him, and he gives out candy and toys. So people can just walk right from the parade into it'll be like a market on the street like we just had, and then the fireworks at about almost 6 at that time of year. So everybody seems happy with that. We do have a young woman in town who puts on a children's Christmas event second Saturday. She's calling Christmas in the Park, which Ms. Duke uses that name, so we're asking her to tweak that a little bit to not confuse the public. That's from 1 to 5. It's all children related, children drawing and games and that sort of thing, so.
Found on herself last year to do it.
She did last year, it was nice, event, so we worked that out. The other thing I want to mention, in my grants update, in my report, I forgot to mention that we have applied for a FDOT MSCOP grant to pave some dirt roads. I have not heard back on any of these grants. I listed DEO, the historic property, the small matching grant, or the MSCOP. We hope maybe by August we'll have some notification on those grants. And I think that was it.
And we have, any questions, city manager?
I have 2 questions. In the balance sheet, the financial statements that we were given all the way in the back, very last page says pooled cash fund unaudited statement. And it lists a whole list of reserves. And the very top line that says reserve general fund, it looks like it says 753,469.
Dale, can you answer that? It's the last page of page number 22 of the pooled cash fund.
I guess my real question is that the reserve that's supposed to be the 1 million that we hold in reserve? but it's 753, 469, or is that just a line? I don't know what that is. Can we get an answer to that at some point? Maybe not now.
I can answer that. Come on up. Come on up.
No, that more. Get on that seat.
I'll be happy to answer that question. The first line of the reserve says general fund 753, 469.99.
Yeah.
Further on down the line, it says, where did I see that? General fund, and it lists all the other ones. And that's what you have right now in the general fund at that date. But it changes.
Okay. So,
Goes
that's
up,
right,
goes down.
the top line is general fund, and then the others are more specific things,
Yep,
like wastewater, CRA, gas, all that kind of
that's
thing.
exactly right.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then Mayor just, well, no, I'm sorry.
Do you have anything else
For,
Charles or for Dale?
not for Dale, but, last year about this time, didn't we do a city manager evaluation?
And I believe he's planning to do that.
Okay, that's just, seemed like this was the time of year.
So it's a different form. This one I borrowed from Hardyville, South Carolina. Has some directions on there to turn it into the clerk within a couple weeks, I think.
So you want this to be turned in by July 31st, correct?
You work a whole year and I had it great. Back in school. That's good. Good job.
Oh, and Mayor, actually, I have one more question for Charles.
Excuse me, Commissioner Devaney.
I have one more question for Charles. So we have the workshop on, to follow up on people's expression of interest in what might be done with the Mill Hill property. And we had a number of speakers today ask that we keep that issue on the agenda. And I know you've said that the ideas that were brought up in the workshop would be forwarded to the master plan consultants. But I think there's a second part to that. The master plan consultants just draw a master plan. The second part is, are we going to actually lay the groundwork to bring a master plan to fruition? We don't own that property, the school district does. So I would suggest that the commission's responsibility to tackle what I think our strategic plan says. We have an interest in acquiring a part of the property that's actually up for sale now. And the public has expressed an interest in the central part of the property that's not up for sale. So from my standpoint, I think that it's time the commission discusses that and looks at the groundwork that we would need to lay to make a master plan happen. Because if we wait until they come up with a master plan, then, yeah.
You want me to put it on the
Maybe too
agenda
late.
next month?
Yes, I would say that it's time we do that.
Now,
There's
what are you
selling
asking to
South
put,
Point.
what are you asking to put on the agenda? Because right now, they have the one parcel of land,
Right.
they're asking $1 million for the vacant area,
Right.
plus the, health department building. So what are you asking for them to put on the agenda?
Well, I think that in addition, we got the summary of the ideas from the workshop. I think we need to look at those ideas and to see where we think they go regardless of what kind of master plan is drawn up, and do we need to do something about it? And if so, what is it that we would do?
I understand what you're saying. I made a note. One of the things I think about with this, something of this size, if we make a decision in the next few months to take action, and then we finish our master plan months later, and we start thinking, we should have just thought about that in a broader sense before we took that action. I think the master plan is a more comprehensive view of the community, including that property. They're not just gonna draw it, they're gonna make recommendations for use.
Right,
What changes we need to make.
But the other track to that is, whatever it is that they come up with, I think we need to lay the groundwork for how we would make that happen. Because if you wait until they complete the plan and you don't even discuss your options, then we might be foreclosed. I don't want to see us foreclosed from, we don't own the property.
Well, right now, my understanding, and Charles, correct me, they're not planning on doing really anything. They need that property
For the next 2 or 3
for the
years.
next 2 or 3 years.
Except for
where
the
buildings
southern
are.
piece.
It's just the southern
Okay,
piece.
then I would like us to have a time on the agenda where we can hear about that more fully. And I also think that as a commission, we need to look and see what people said at the workshop. I think it's important for us to do that.
Well, I've got a question. You said that they need the property for 2 years. The school board needs the property
Yes,
for 2 years.
they may, while they construct the new elementary school, we said they may utilize the gym building as an example, or some of the other old classrooms on a temporary basis. He didn't know. He just said, we're not ready to relinquish that for 2 to 3 years till we complete the new school and it's ready to move in.
Did they make that public? Because apparently nobody else that showed up here today knows that there's no chance of buying that for 2 or 3 years.
I'm not sure what they've announced publicly about it. It just, it might.
And they might change,
Yeah.
they might decide, who knows, I mean, they might change their mind. I mean, who knows what they're gonna do, they might decide that they don't need it, I don't know. Right. So,
I think we've got some time, but I understand. I have a discussion item to the agenda.
Thank you, and thank y'all very much for letting me ask this question.
is that it?
Gotcha.
Okay, do we have anything else? Karen, clerk?
Thank you. Charles handed out his evaluation forms for y'all to fill out. We took the initiative in-house, all the employees, and directors, and we did our own evaluation on Charles. He doesn't know the outcome of them yet, but I am more than willing to share with you all. Just let me know on how you want me to share this with you. If you want me to just give you the totals and be done with it. Some of them made comments, some of them haven't. It's just a matter of what your preference is. As an employee, we see Charles every day. We deal with him every day. He directs us, so I think that at least some of the portion of you guys, your evaluation should come from us as well. I'm not saying 100%, I'm just saying at least 20% of what we have to say should go into your evaluations as far as being employees and having him as our boss, is what I'm saying. I don't know how you all want to do that.
The perspective of the.
From us employees that deal with him every day, you guys do not deal with him every day. Yes, you do deal with him when it comes time to packets and all of that, but we, as employees, are here every day.
That's one thing that your bosses evaluate you, but when you ask for your employees, that you supervise to evaluate you, that's.
Well, before I retired,
Yes, go ahead.
we had from 1 to 10. on my supervisor, on our supervisor.
No 110?
Yeah, I worked for a big company. I retired from it, but in other words, we still had to evaluate
So it says a lot, so we're coming along here in Crescent.
Yeah, well,
Slowly
he was
but
good, he got good remarks, I'm gonna tell him that.
Especially if you got close to retirement.
Yeah, right.
Okay, with that, can I get a motion, if we have nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned at 9:55.
Well, we push it.
I hear your legs still.
Everything's public record, y'all can do whatever you want. This is what I got. Well, they think they're the only ones.
Yeah.
Dogs are residential. How's your pup?
Yeah.
Great. I wish I had her on.
I know, a dog's life doesn't describe today's dog, right? The dog, you know about the expression a dog's life.
Yeah.
If you're a pet, it's
Here you go. That's a people, dog world,